because you've had his back and have done the work. And you remember 4 years ago when he left and came back to Mar-a-Lago, how dark those days were of January and February and March and April of 2021. You remember how dark they were and what a long shot this looked like. You guys were there from the beginning. You would not give up. You were relentless. Your fight, your refusal to surrender is the reason President Trump's here today. But guess what? This is just the beginning. To take the country back is going to take decades. It's not going to be done in a month. It's not going to be done in 100 days. It's not going to be done in 4 years. It's not. The start of it will be, and President Trump's doing that. And his first 100 days are going to be incredible. But now we have to put all gas, no brakes from now on, because these people are going to regroup, and they've got the media, they've got money, they control the apparatus. We have to dig them out with 4,000 people, 3,000 that are not Senate confirmed, and 1,000 still have to go through Thune's operation. You already hear the bitching and moaning about Pete Hegseth. You already hear the bitching and moaning about Kash Patel. You already hear the bitching and moaning about Rick Grinnell. You already hear the bitching and moaning about RFK and Tulsi Gabbard and whoever else he would designate. They want moderate to center left rhinos. That's what they want, and they're going to fight us on everything else. So my point, I'm down for the fight, and Steve Stern's down for the fight. And quite frankly, I think everybody on this everybody on this call is down for the fight, because you guys have been there and you fought, and that's why President Trump's there today for a historic victory. So Steve Stern has a get me. We want to hear your stories. We want to get you guys on. We love you guys. You would not be here. You are every bit as great as the Patriots of 1775 and 1776 and 1783. And don't ever forget it.
So, Steve, you're being streamed here on 100 podcasts, going all the way to Australia, the Philippines, Canada, London, Italy, Spain, many, many other countries. It took us a long time to do this, but we got some of the stars all over the world on here. What would you say to them in Italy, London, Canada? Because they're following us and what's happening. So if you could give us a little background, because you're talking to the world right now.
President Trump believes in peace and prosperity. Go back to 2018 and 2019, before the pandemic hit, after he had time to get his economic program in. There were no wars, and we had an economy that was on fire, with working class people having greater wage increases than white collar, than non-college graduates greater than college graduates. President Trump is focused on one thing. Revenge for him means a great administration of peace and prosperity. Everything he's doing right now is focused on getting an economic team in here that can handle this economic crisis, and getting a national security team that understands that America first, and working with our allies in Europe, in the Middle East, around the South China Sea, and up around Japan and South Korea, in Northeast Asia, is a way that we're going to get international and global peace. President Trump is the guy that can deliver peace and prosperity, and that's what he's focused on. He wants to stop the war in Ukraine. He wants to stop the wars in the Middle East. He wants to stop any potential war in the South China Sea. He wants to protect Australia and work with our allies there in the Indo-Pacific. So we have the ability, but don't think the globalists, don't think the war machine, don't think the warmongers aren't going to fight us every step of the way. So if you guys have our back, we will have President Trump's back, and we can do this. This is all doable, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen without a tense and bitter fight.
So people are asking, what can they do? Because, a lot of people have worked on our campaigns, both election integrity and precinct strategy. But, right after you win an election, everybody goes to sleep. The people on this call could be as many as 2 million people all over the world and all over the United States. Give them a little background what they could do. And also,
number one, but hang on, here's what you do. Share social media. Number one, just take clips from War Room, take clips from this, take clips from all your other podcasts, and share them. Unite. Get people to get on Twitter for you. Get people to get on Getter, get on Gab, whatever platforms you're on, Instagram, even TikTok. We're going to ban that eventually, but even TikTok. Take over social media. We are driving the narrative, not mainstream media. We got to stop whining about that. They're crushed. Social media is your weapon. Make sure you got your clips out there and do it. And for the people in the United States, or even people overseas, Steve, everybody should apply for inauguration tickets, and we all should come to D.C. for the inauguration. This should be like Andrew Jackson. This should be a populist inauguration. Everybody should come back. Everybody should party. everybody should meet each other in person and have a great time. And just let's roll. Let's make this fun. Look, you know this, Steve. We've had it's been very tough. We've had a blast. We can be happy warriors because we're on the side of righteousness, and we're on the side of great people, and we've got a great leader in Trump. So let's fight hard and enjoy it. We should share everything on social media. We should double and triple down on being social media warriors. That doesn't cost you any money. And number two, everybody, including our international folks, come to the inauguration. And I tell you, if we can get enough people there, War Room will throw a big party, and we'll have just a great, great time.
Steve, I want to thank you very much for coming on. You are our hero. As you know, I was on yesterday, said all the good things about you. Sorry we didn't have enough time to introduce you on the way it should be. But I will say this, Steve Bannon is the leader of the MAGA party. And if it wouldn't be for him, President Trump wouldn't be elected. I could tell you that. Because when he was on vacation, through Maureen, through all his people, they were getting the word out. Get involved.
Well, thank you for the kind words. We got the third greatest president, or the third great president. We had General Washington, we had Abraham Lincoln, now we got Trump. This will be known as the age of Trump, just like it was known as the age of Jackson. We have a great once-in-a-lifetime leader that's there. We have to have his back. You guys are the reason. I was a little part of it. You guys were the reason. And this is why I felt so comfortable. When I went to Danbury Prison, I said next man up, and you were the next man. And you guys delivered the victory. You guys delivered. Don't ever forget that. It's one of the greatest movements in the history of this country. You guys delivered. Now we have to have his back when the fight gets even tougher, which is to implement these policies, get his people in, his policies in, and make sure that we drive out the enemy and we save this country. And in saving the country, save all of our allies throughout the world. So I appreciate the kind words, but let's get everybody back to DC for Inauguration Week. Let's have a big ass party and share everything on social media. Doesn't cost you a penny. Share social media, and let's have a big ass party back here, like Andrew. Let's top Andrew Jackson's populist takeover of Washington during his Inauguration Week. Let's make it even bigger and rowdier than that one. So, Steve, I got to bounce. I love you guys. Stern, I love you. Love all the team. Let's go ahead and hammer it. Mo, thanks for setting this up for me, girl. See ya.
Thank you very much, Steve. All right, we got about 10 minutes. Let's get Greg Stenstrom on for 10 minutes, and then we have General Flynn coming on.
That sounds good. And Steve, General Flynn is running just a little bit late. I'm getting an updated ETA, but just let you know he is running a little bit late.
Okay,
Greg?
Go ahead, Greg.
Greg, you're up. And if you can unmute, Greg, go ahead and unmute.
Mute.
Great, perfect.
So before he gets on, I want to say that Greg Stenstrom is one of our leading people that come on. He is doing such a great job, and I want everybody to promote his websites when he hears. We've got 2 million people on this call. We're going to have more people streaming it. I know that I work 12 hours a day. He probably works 18 hours a day. So we're very happy to have him on, except he's forgot to wear my flag shirt. So I want everybody to buy a flag shirt and send it to Greg so he gets it out of the wash.
I wore it this week. I really did. It's back in the wash. So thank you for having me here, everybody. And I know I'm filling in here before General Flynn gets on. So rather than bore everyone with graphs, I've just prepared a little bit of a statement overall that will hopefully only take 8 minutes. First of all, thrilled to be here, and I'm elated that President Trump is President 47. The Republican National Committee's too big to rig strategy played a key role in mobilizing Republican and conservative voters during the 2024 election. This strategy aimed to secure a decisive victory by driving record voter turnout and reducing the impact of any potential fraud through sheer voter numbers. While that mobilization was critical, I believe it may be insufficient to get us through. Many of you here have heard the predictions, and I've been people saying that I thought they would declare Kamala Harris as the president on election eve. But what some didn't hear was that I said I hoped I was wrong, and that only a miracle would change that outcome, and it would require an 80% voter turnout on election day that could mitigate the mail-in ballot fraud and fraudulent code that was installed in election machines throughout Pennsylvania and the country, and break the algorithms designed to steal the election. God granted us that miracle, and the miracle of Trump, with the turnout necessary to overcome that steal. We saw turnouts in Pennsylvania of 83%, 86%, 80%, and the voters were lined up. They brought chairs, they brought box lunches, they brought water, they brought they brought their neighbors, and we saw a voter turnout like we've never seen before. And that is what saved the country. I think number one. I think that number of people was incredible, the turnout. I just want to check, Raj. I'm seeing some notes about the sound. Is the sound okay? People will be able to hear me?
Everything is good.
Okay. So, as discussed in previous discussions here, the real battle for election integrity didn't end on election day. And really, quite frankly, that was the first step, first phase in successfully seating President Trump and a Republican House and Senate. Key milestones that are upcoming include state certifications on December 17th. That's the end date for all the states. Different states are certifying at different times before them, but by December 17th, all the results have to be in from the states. And what that includes, and I'm just going to use Pennsylvania as an example, the Secretary of the Commonwealth is the one who certifies the vote. The legislature, of course, reviews it, makes their recommendation, but the Secretary of the Commonwealth in here, Philadelphia, is Al Schmidt. He will certify the vote, and then the governors don't actually certify, but they provide the certification of the electors. And they say, we've assigned 19 electors in the case of Pennsylvania, Democrat electors, Republican electors, but we're assigning Pennsylvania's 19 electors to President Trump. And that has to happen by December 17th. Congressional certification is on January 6th, after the seating of the new Congress and Senate on January 3rd. And as a final step, Inauguration Day on January 20th is when I'll breathe my first big sigh of relief. I breathed a sigh of relief on election night, but Inauguration Day on January 20th, as Steve just mentioned, there's a lot of hurdles. These dates are where our legal system and our federal processes confirm the election outcome. And this is where we need to focus our attention now. To put things into perspective, let's look at the voter turnout numbers. In 2020, 158 million Americans voted, which was considered at that time a record turnout. 81 million votes were recorded for Biden, or said that they were recorded, and I think it was 74 million were provided for Trump. And I hope that adds up to 158. But in that election, Biden was awarded 81 million votes. This year, despite what they say is the greatest turnout in history in an intense election push, approximately 126 people turned out on election day, with 65 million recorded for President Trump and 61 million recorded for Kamala Harris. And that was when we went to bed, when I went to bed at 2:30 in the morning, finally, to get a few hours of sleep after being relieved that President Trump was named. That was the number. The number was 100 and just that number was 126 million was reported, with approximately 99% of the votes counted. In that case, Harris got 61 million votes and Biden got 81 million votes. It's a 20 million vote drop. Even with what I'm very, very concerned with is that number from election day of 126 million has since escalated to my best estimate. It's very hard to tell, to approximately 154 million votes. So I don't know how we got from 126 million to 154 million votes in only a week, but that's still a drop of 4 million voters from 2020. This decline shows that while turnout is essential, it doesn't alone secure election integrity and the election outcome. In Delaware County, in Pennsylvania, which I can speak to directly, 137,000 mail-in ballots were recorded in 2020. for which 120,000 of those were given to Biden. And in 2024, only 80,000 mail-in ballots were counted for our county. So we dropped from 137 to 80,000 mail-in ballots, for which Harris received 60,000 of those votes. That was half of Biden's total in 2020. In both 2020 and 2024, President Trump received 18,000 and 20,000 votes respectively, which was hardly any change at all, while Harris, took a 50% drop. So while Too Big to Rig accounted for more Republicans understanding the value and importance of mail-in ballots, early voting, and so forth, I think the people here, the grassroots people that are on this call and the groups that they work with and represent, helped ensure that only mail-in ballots and in-person votes that were lawful were properly counted. So I think that was the big difference. The difference was between unlawful manufactured votes and lawful votes that people on the ground that were provided. Again, Too Big to Rig did provide people. We had a lot more poll watchers this time. In Delaware County, we had representatives from the House, we had representatives from the national RNC, and we had representatives from the state RNC, which was a big change from 2020 and 2022. There were eyes on the ground, and there were a lot of people watching. So what we have to look at now is the path to certification. Let's break down the steps that remain to be secured for this election to be come to fruition. So we have the state certification on December 17th. We have the congressional certification on January 6th, and we have Inauguration Day on January 20th. These stages are all currently vulnerable to challenges. While Steve Bannon just mentioned them at a high level, what they're doing now is they're taking active steps. The Democrats, socialists, Marxists, and people that have malevolent intentions to our country are taking active steps to procedurally stop the certifications and to stop the inauguration. Mark Elias has been dispatched to Pennsylvania, and he has aggressively and surprisingly stated his intentions to overturn the elections here, and specifically the elections that are of keen note to me are McCormick versus Casey, U.S. Senate, for the U.S. Senate, in which McCormick appeared to win handily, even though closely. He appeared to win handily, but Casey, they somehow in the last week, 100,000 provisional ballots and 100,000 mail-in ballots have appeared, 200,000 ballots, and Casey is insisting that these be counted by election machines, which we know for a fact have fraudulent code in them, and the pedigree of these mail-in ballots and provisionals all remain in question. So in Arizona, we see the same thing with Kari Lake and Gallego, and I think it was 99,000 votes just appeared in one night as a drop for Gallego. And then in Wisconsin, I think, which is one of the most outrageous, we had 100,000 votes show up, which were 90% for the Democrat challenger to the Republican there.
Two minutes, Greg.
I got it. So what we've done is we had a series of litigative actions that had been filed. I think Marley's on later here. I'm not sure, Steve, but we filed SCOTUS cases and multiple federal cases. And what we found to mitigate this, and these cases were very simple. They asked that the DOJ rescind their unlawful policy and investigate election crimes, which they have not done, which would have a huge impact if they did so. It would stop a lot of the fraud that we're seeing now. And we also asked for declaratory relief for the federal courts to simply state that mail-in ballots from unqualified electors can't be counted. That would put a fork right now into many of the efforts. We also asked that election machines be certified and properly tested, which they're not done in Pennsylvania by the admission of the Secretary of Commonwealth here. And these simple declaratory reliefs were been stalled by primarily Obama-appointed clerks, judges, and an administrative state that has blocked these cases, including cases for Molly Hornick, who I think is appearing here, in United Sovereign, from getting to the courts that would mitigate the fraud and also assure certification. So it's critical that these cases be pressed forward. We've done everything we can at this point. The central figure that they're trying to block them from is Judge Alito. Judge Alito is where it seems to be their focal point from blocking these cases from getting his attention. What you can do to help us, people that are on here, and quite a few people here helped me. We need the attention of state attorney generals. We looking for amicus briefs from Texas Attorney General Paxton. We looked for amicus briefs from Judicial Watch and lieutenant governors of some states that wanted to do this. We need their help to bring these cases to the attention of the.
We got to get Marley on. Time for Marley. I'm sorry.
All right.
Look, later. Yeah. Marley Hornick, you're up. We got a lot of people to
Oh,
come.
Marley's on now. Perfect.
Yeah.
Go ahead and unmute Marley. Gonna unmute.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Thanks, Steve.
Great. Thanks so much, Steve and Raj, for having United Sovereign Americans on again. Thanks, Greg, for all the hard work you're doing, and Bannon, and everyone who's spoken here, Captain Maureen Bannon, and everyone who has participated on this call. I'm so proud to call myself an American among you, because you have fought so hard already for the republic that we know we must restore. And I want to talk a little bit about what United Sovereign Americans is going to be doing in the coming weeks and months to focus on that for all of us. First of all, the last time I was on this call, I know I spoke about the marauder inside of our system. And I want all of the people to understand here that what United Sovereign Americans focuses on is taking forensic measurements of election misconduct inside of the system. And we are doing that for the 2024 election. We have done that in other elections, and we're doing it right now for the 2024 election. And there is no question whatsoever that our elections continue to be conducted illegally. I want to congratulate everyone here on this call for getting a legitimate, originalist, constitutionalist president into the highest office in the American Republic. But I want to say, like many have echoed already, that our representation is still not secured. And the reality is there is massive misconduct within our election system. There is massive illegal behavior across many, many states that we are right now tracking and measuring. And what I want to bring up is that this is fundamentally what we're measuring are millions and millions of civil rights violations. And what do I mean by a civil rights violation? We have a contract with our government. We signed a contract with our government. It's called the United States Constitution. In the Constitution, the purpose and meaning of the federal government and all government is the protection of inalienable rights. These are not rights that the government can grant us or has granted us. These are the rights that are granted to us by our Creator. And the framers and the founders defined those specifically in many instances as life, liberty, and property. And the way that we protect and preserve those inalienable rights is through representative government. We live in a Republican system of government based on representation. We do not live in a democracy. We support democratic ideals, but we are a Republican system of government. So we choose representatives. Now, under that contract, we are guaranteed this representation. Under that contract, we willingly submit part of our property and part of our liberty to that government because we believe that that is in the best interest of the common defense and the trade, national policy. There's a lot of issues, but they're enumerated in that first sentence of the United States Constitution, which is the purpose clause, right? For the purpose of greater unity, right? A more perfect union, national defense. The reasons why we formed a government are right there. The reasons why we fund the government are there, and they are restricted and limited. When there is massive election fraud inside of the system of electing national representatives, when that system is contaminated with massive fraud, it doesn't matter where specifically it's happening. What matters is that the election officials conducting those elections are leaving the door open for people who have an interest in the money we are transmitting to our federal government on the basis of securing our inalienable rights. It is the issue that happens when we look at circumstances like what we're facing right now in Arizona, what we're facing in Pennsylvania, what we're facing in these circumstances where massive numbers of illegal ballots are being injected into the system. We are measuring this. What we're looking at is not that Terry Lake, for example, is having her race stolen from her. She is a candidate for office. She might turn out to be a great representative. She might not. We don't know. We may never know because she can't seem to get over this hurdle of election fraud. But who is being robbed is the American people. The citizens of Arizona are their representation is stolen from them. The American people, we are being stolen from. Our property is being illegally confiscated and appropriated against the will and against the law, against the contract that we have with our government, the United States Constitution. Read the contract. Don't sign a contract without reading it. Read the contract. They're not allowed to appropriate your funds based on their own moral ideals, their own philosophical purpose, or their utopian vision, or their own personal privilege and power. They're not allowed. That is property theft and denial of due process. So back to United Sovereign Americans and our measurements. What we are going to do now, just to be quite frank, is we are going to start enforcing the civil rights of the American people. We are going to go for accountability. The 9 federal lawsuits that we already have rolling through the courts, rolling through federal court in Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Texas, Michigan, North Carolina, Colorado, and Georgia, represented by Bruce Castor, the attorney who won in the second impeachment trial on behalf of Donald Trump in front of the US Senate. Those 9 lawsuits are making their way through the courts. They argue that we must have legally valid elections, and we will have legally valid elections. And those are going to protect the 2026 congressional primary elections, because every single person who is on a ballot in November of 2026 has to be working for the American people, period. That's how this system works. Otherwise, it's fraud and property theft. Now, I want everyone on this call to hear me say, we are not the grassroots. United Sovereign Americans is not a grassroots organization. You're not a grassroot. You're not the root of any grass. You are an owner and a customer of the United States government. We are collectively in control of our government. Do not accept the designation that they are superior to you, that they have authority over you, and you are a grassroot. We are going to enforce our right to representative government and our inalienable rights to life, liberty, and property as they are designated in our contract. And the states are granted and bequeathed the authority and the duty of enforcing suffrage and the rights of every American citizen in Article 1, Section 2 and Article 1, Section 4 of the United States Constitution. I don't care, and you shouldn't care, what Nevra and Hava say about whether or not citizenship is enforceable. When the states fail to enforce the contract and the portion of that contract that the law says is their responsibility, they're stealing our representation. That's what they're doing. Whether they're doing it on purpose, whether they're foolishly ignoring their responsibility or arrogantly thinking that they have got this covered, it doesn't matter, because where they are positioned, their barn door is open. New York, the barn door is open. California, the barn door is open. It doesn't matter to a thief where they get access to their target. if they get it through California, or if they get it through Nebraska, or if they get it through Ohio or Idaho, they don't care. They're going after the Treasury. That's the big target. Trillions of dollars of our money are being appropriated by people we did not provably elect. So, the states that are not conducting their elections according to the law and according to the United States Constitution and upholding the civil rights of the American people to suffrage, due process, life, liberty, and property, you are on notice, because we are going to start coming after you. And that is what United Sovereign Americans is going to be focusing on. I invite everyone to come and be a part of this movement through United Sovereign Americans, a litigation effort to enforce the civil rights of the American people against our own government, to enforce the principle of suffrage, and enforce the unalienable rights that the government has no right to be trampling. It is their responsibility, rather, to uphold those rights. So we can use your time, we can use your treasure. This is going to be a lot of litigation. We have constitutional experts working with United Sovereign Americans. We're spending hours and hours meeting with our attorneys on a daily and weekly basis. Come and be a part of this movement. We have done this forensically. We're not shouting and yelling. We have hard forensic evidence, ironclad proof of massive election misconduct inside of our system. And we're going to take this fight to the mat. And I truly and honestly hope that all people of all parties and faiths will come and be a part of this movement, because this country is supposed to belong to us. Thank you so much. You can find us at uniteforfreedom.com and on X at United S American.
Marley, do you want to say something about your lobby day? Is that ready for prime time? Your upcoming lobby day?
It's not ready for prime time.
Copy that. No worries. Listen for that.
I'll just mention, Raj, since you brought it up, we are planning a national day for election validity, likely in February. We'll come and give more information about that as it unfolds, but we want everyone in the country. By then, we're going to have our 2024 analysis done. We'll have numerous lawsuits more filed based on civil rights and based on not election validity anymore. We're going for accountability. That's what we're going to have to do here. So anyway, anyone who wants to be a part of that massive national lobby day using the forensic analysis of United Sovereign Americans to argue for election validity in our state capitals across the country, we want you to be a part of it.
Thank
We're
you,
always
Marley.
thinking of more ways that everybody can work together across the country on one argument. That's how we win.
Thank you, Marley. Thank you, Marley, for that.
Yeah, Melissa's at the hospital. We can't get a hold of Flynn. So a couple of things. One, I want to tell everybody about a guy who helped us quite a lot, votifynow.org. I want everybody to get that app. He had about 4 million people and tons of people reported incidents, which we got, and we sent them over to the RNC. The other thing is, see if Liz Harrington is ready. If she's not ready, we'll get Linda Sinkowitz on.
Copy that. Liz Harrington is not here yet. I'm looking for Sinkowitz. Stand by. And while we're doing that, let me go ahead and make a quick announcement here. So this show, a lot of effort, a lot of time. Please do your part and get a gift for you and everyone on your Christmas list from the flag shirt. You can see it right there. Please, please, please do that. It's quality merchandise. Please take advantage of that. Next thing, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about how can we get more information, how can we stay in touch. Especially if you're watching this on one of our live streams, it is so important that you please text the word elections to 91776. Text the word elections to 91776. Why? You will get additional information. We have someone actually typing up all the organization names that were mentioned on this call. That will be made available to you. If you want that, text the word elections to 91776. Thank you, Kathy, for making that happen. And then we have, I'm going to play this announcement here for you, because now with this change in regime, decentralization in DC, the states have got to pick up the slack. And here is a video for you, a 2-minute video here for you. Stand by. Everything changed on November 5th. Everything changed on November 5th, and now what do? There is stuff that all of us have to take action on right now, immediately, together in unity. Otherwise, we'll fall behind again like we did last time. So here is what's next. I think it might be a little bit like a football game. 2016 to 2020 was the first half. That did not end well. 2020 to 2024, I don't know what that was, but now we're in the second half, 2024, and we got to move fast to make up for lost ground. So let's look at the playbook. Here we have a new quarterback, Trump. Here we have the bad guys all lining up, already starting to attack him. Now we can either stay on the sidelines and let him take the hits. And what we've always been missing, the left tackle, the right tackle, left guard, right guard, the center. These guys need to block these guys so that our quarterback can advance the game. Who are these left tackles, the right tackles, the left guard, the right guard, the center? Who are these guys? Well, they are your congressmen and women, and they need to do a better job than the lukewarm, mediocre job that they've been doing all these years. But that's where you come in. You are the fans. You have got to compel these congressmen to do their job, protect and augment the presidency so that we can make touchdown after touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. But how do you do that? How do you compel your congressmen and women to run interference? What does that even look like? Step one, get connected. First, get your congress members' contact info, call their office, use this script when you reach the gatekeeper. Don't stop at one attempt, keep calling, emailing, and messaging until you get the appointment. Once you secure that appointment, be ready. Bring this prepared document outlining your points and leave this document behind in the meeting. Be direct, say what needs to be said, make your message unmissable. Next, get social. Go to x.com, find your congress member's handle, and message them with your version of this message. Make it public. You have to get their attention. Step number 4, multiply the effort. Now, recruit 5 people from your contacts on your phone to do the same thing. Urge them to repeat the process. This isn't a one-person job. It's a movement. Remember, unless you bring the pressure, Congress members will not act. Make it impossible for them to ignore you. Be relentless, be loud. The time for their lukewarm, mediocre effort of the past decade is over, and it's up to you to make that clear. To learn more, go to patriotsdigest.us. Great. Linda Sinkowitz.
Let's bring Jovan on. He's ready to go, and then Linda will come back later. She's having a problem unmuting.
Copy that. Jovan, please unmute, and you're up.
Okay, so we've got screen share for me, I hope.
Yes, just go ahead and start the screen share.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, here we go. I'm going to say hi to everybody. Let me find my right screen. Hold on one second. Wow, different setup here. Let me see where I can find it. I'm looking for it. I cannot see it on my screen. So here we go. Let's see if we see it this way. There we go. Okay, before I start, folks, a few things. Number one, the reason President Trump's in the White House is because every one of you changed. And when I mean every one of you changed, everybody from 2020 has learned more than they've ever known before. We paid attention to civics. We paid attention to what was important. And we talked it up. The system would have loved to shut us down, but we talked it up. That's what got people there. My presentation, I'm going to keep relatively short. Hopefully you can see it on your screen. Are you seeing full screen? Steve, if you'll just give me a thumbs up, that will be great. Thank you.
I can see you. Great.
And okay, great. So I'm going to go to the beginning of my document here, and I'm going to kind of give you a talk on some of the things that have gone on. I'm all about the education. One, I think everything that we keep on saying, we need to get to solutions so we can be more effective. Do not, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen for this just for a moment. Folks, we didn't win anything. We won a little bitty skirmish. It might be the presidency of the United States, but in the terms of this war and getting our country back, we haven't won. We won a battle. It's not over yet. For me, it's eerily quiet. With millions of military-aged men in, we're going to have hell for 70 some odd days. We don't know what's going to happen on the 20th. But let's just assume we're going to get to that point without conflict, and we're going to have to fix this. We do not have 4 years. We don't have 1,400 and change days. In fact, we don't even have 2 years. You've got to understand what we have. We have 1 year. And many times people don't pay attention to the time clock. And I would just like to focus everybody on the time clock, please. Now, a few things you need to understand. Everything that was ignored, learned in the Arizona 2021 full forensic audit, everything that people told you there was no audit, nothing was found, they didn't do an audit, all the broadcasters that talk about how great they are and we're going to put people on that did not cover this stuff. Some of the things you didn't get to hear were that in Maricopa in 2020, out of 2,595,272 registered voters, for Maricopa County, they printed 4,027,968 ballots. Now, why for one county would you print 56% more ballots than you actually need? None of your lawmakers and none of the broadcasters supposedly covering this stuff ever talked about this. They didn't let it out. Well, just so you know, it was repeated. They shifted things that happened in Pima County or in Maricopa County. All they did was shift it to Pima County. And Pima County ran the same exact operation. Remember, all this additional counting time, all these ballots coming in late drops, folks. 2020, they ran it. 2022, they ran it. 2024, they ran it. Pima County has 644,000 registered voters. For Pima County, they printed 1,013,274 ballots. I want to let you know, no matter how much we talk or rah-rah, nothing materially changed enough that we can protect our elections. So this is where I'm headed. I basically think the word election integrity's gone. It's over. I think it's overdone. We have so many election integrity experts that when 2020 happened, they worked at Taco Bell or were a junior in high school, and now we're talking on it. I actually think the word has turned into a commodity that's not desirable. I think we have to get more focused on what we do because there is no integrity in any aspect of our elections. And look what just happened in the House with the speaker and everything. Folks, they're not going away and they're not going away easy. It's going to be a fight. I propose we get to what's called election veracity. Veracity is very simple. It is to conform to the facts accurately and have habitual truthfulness. That is what we have to have in our elections, the truth. Now, why do I say this? Even though President Trump got in the White House, we spent 4 years telling everybody it's the machines, when it will never be proven on the machines. And all of the rules regarding the machines and the Election Assistance Commission are voluntary. You can look it up yourself. There will never be a conviction based on focusing on the machines. What we have in the United States of America is voting systems. And everybody wants to focus, oh, I see an algorithm or I see a pattern. We can't do it on themes. We have to do it on prosecutable facts. What I'm going to present to you is how I think we can get to prosecutable facts. And that's the move to election veracity. What did we learn? If we go back and we look at the last 4 years and what's probably millions of hours of people spent on this call, trying to figure out what's up, trying to get people activated. Yes, you did it. You got people off their butt and they voted against a very horrible system. But here is, if you step back and look at what does everybody on these calls, what does everybody out there that's podcasting, talking, speaking on this person channel or that person channel, if we divided it all up and we were looking at this like the war we are in, because we are in a war, what are we doing with our warriors and our assets? Here are the categories. If I step back and look at everything every one of us have been through since 2020. And I have broke it down to acronyms very easy. We got the PI, we got the COI, we got the PIC, we got the VI, we got the RI, we got the LAP, and we got the WHAM. But what we don't have is we don't have the knock. I'm going to break these down for you. You will notice your position predominantly based upon what you do in this call. The pie. The people out there that are the pie in this movement are the public influencers and evangelists. These are the people that get America to know. Steve Stern's a pie. He is an influencer and an evangelist. He gets the message out. There are many people out there that do a great job in getting the message out. This is a critical part of our movement and winning our country back. It's that pie. It's the key part of the pie right there. This pie part of public influencers and evangelists is our replacement for the mainstream media that has done this to us. But we still are missing the knock. Then we have the CO. That is the people that work on compliance, operations, and enforcement. When you look at how many ballots were supposed to be printed compared to what the number of registered voters are, that's the compliance part. A lot of my work falls in this category. The COI, the compliance, the operations, and the enforcement. Many people focus in that area, but we're still missing the knock. Then we've got the PIC. Now the PIC is pretty easy to identify. The PIC is what's called the political intel and communications. I'll give you an example. X people moved into a county. X were Democrats. X were Republicans. These people moved in. These people moved out. That is political intel. That communication is very critical to push to the party. This is a very important part of our messaging. This is what an influencer will get out to talk about. Hey, here's what they did wrong from a compliance standpoint. Here's what we need to know as a party. So I call that the political intel and communications. Seth Keshel would be a good example in that category. Then we've got the VI. Now, the VI part of what we've all done, and we have there, is the volunteer instruction and education. These are the people that get volunteers together. Could be a lot of the election integrity committees, could be people that round up poll watchers, etc. Steve Stern participates in this same thing because why? He's getting out volunteer instruction and education. VI is one of the key aspects of what we do, but we're missing the knock. Then we got the RI. What are the RI? Well, the RI are the people that are digging deep into the research, the investigation, and the hard evidence. Remember, all of these complement each other. If you found something that went wrong, let's say in compliance, you got to be able to back it up with the research or the investigation and evidence to prove it. You've got to have hard research. And even though we have the RI component down, we're still missing the knock. Then we've got a part of this, which I call the LAP. That's the people that are dealing with the laws, the allies, and the policies. Those are the people that are working to try to get laws on the books to clean up a lot of this mess. People that are working on those specialties. They're getting the allies within the government. They're trying to get policies passed. Once again, we're missing the knock. And then we've got the WHAM. Marley was talking about WHAM in New York. That's the warfare and the movements. Understanding how to fight this fight legally and where you stand legally, bringing the lawsuits, etc., and getting a movement of people behind it to fight. But we are still missing the knock. Here's what a knock is in technology terms. A knock is nothing more than the Network Operations Center. Every one of you right now, whether you know it or not, are being viewed, managed, streamed, handled, and accounted for right now through a knock. You're going through some network operations center that is making sure everything on this call goes copacetic, that everybody can get a feed. We don't have a knock in this group or business or industry. And the knock that I'm talking about is we need to create our own version of what is a network operations center, and I call that a national organized communications. Now, there's a big difference here, so bear with me so I help everybody understand what I'm saying. You might think being on a call, we're all communicating. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something different so we can win. Because we have 1 year, folks. I want you to understand why we have 1 year. We have 1 year because the fight is now moved to the midterms. If we get past January 20th, and to get successfully to the midterms, we've got to have everything in place by the time that political season hits, not after the fact. Traditionally, we're doing too much after the fact. If we can develop our strengths and get into a national organized communication structure, which is how we get beat, the Dems do it to us. That's why they're always on message. That's why their message is the same. This is how they beat us. So let's learn from the DNC. And we need to create our own DNC. I call it the divide and conquer. It's very simple. Breaking down a complex problem into smaller, more manageable parts, solving each part individually. Here's what I mean. It's a very simple concept.
Jovan, we got about 5 minutes and then we got General Flynn got to come on.
No problem. I'll be done in 2. A lot of good people put in a lot of good work. A lot of people put in hours. A lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort, and that was wasted. Probably the biggest waste we had was everybody talking about it's the machines and the machines are flipping votes. Why? You cannot enforce that in a court of law. But every single lawsuit went that way, and every single lawsuit got booted. I think that was part of the plan. Now, if we go back and we look on everything, and it's a prime example. By now, you've heard I'm Satan's spawn, I'm Mossad, I'm CIA. I'm probably missing a few. I killed Jimmy Hoffa. Trying to think what else I've heard.
You're an
Right?
election denier.
I'm an election denier, and I'm the world's worst grifter. I can prove it. I charged $210,000 to do something that cost me $2.5 million. I'm the world's worst grifter. But folks, this isn't over. Not by a long shot. But you know what we got? We got a bunch of little cliques. We got a bunch of little committees. We got networks. We got pockets. We got buddies. We got friends. We got people out there in broadcasting that won't even touch the truth at all. And so you need to understand we're only as good as our weakest link. What I'm proposing, which I said for years, and I'm going to say it again, we better take from the Democrats what works for them. And that means very simple. You can have all kinds of flavors of Democrats. Hell, you can be anything from a pedophile to a 900-pounder with one arm and one leg that loves pizza, but they still stay on message and fight together. We
Thank you.
do not.
We got to move on to General Flynn. We'll get you back on if you want to come back on.
Was that 5 minutes? Wow.
Yeah, that was 7. Okay, General Flynn, come on down.
Yeah, I love listening to Jovan. Thank you, Steve, and I appreciate everybody's patience. I'm at a hospital here in Florida. A friend of maybe some of you know, I won't mention his name, but he had a massive heart attack on Monday morning early, and so I just felt compelled to get down here to visit him. He's doing much better, but this is reality, right? Reality is life, and life goes on and doesn't go on for some. So I just, everybody just say a prayer. I think one of the things, and I'll just stay at the strategic level here, because what Jovan was talking about, and I just caught the tail end, Jovan, it's everything. It's all the above. And now what we have to do is, and it's like I've been saying to people, we have you know, like I said the other day in a post, right? I mean, this is D-Day +1. We can't declare victory over Europe yet. You know, this is the early stages. We're getting ready to go into another phase of operations here. You know, there's some difficult times ahead. I think if I saw the breaking news about Thune in the Senate, I mean, so we are going to constantly be in the offensive mode here for a while. I mean, we are going to have to be on the offensive, and that, you know, I use that metaphorically to make sure that everybody understands. You know, we have to do what we can, and we have to continue to expose, and continue to you know, get our voices heard out there. And Steve, you've been a wonderful means to do that with the whole precinct strategy. I mean, when I think about the guy that I'm visiting here in the hospital, what he did, and the remnant alliance that was organized of 500 Christian churches to get the Christian vote out, right? I mean, everybody was one big team. We didn't always see eye to eye. We didn't always get well coordinated, but we were constantly communicating, and we constantly did that wherever we were at. You know, whether it was, you know, on your precinct strategy updates, Steve, or Jovan with his podcast, everybody had a role, and everybody came together to do it in order for us to move forward. Now, what we have to do is we have to make sure that we completely understand the agenda of this president, you know, Donald J. Trump, and where we can focus. You know, I mean, got to be careful juggling a lot of different balls. If you're really good at one or two things, like laser focus on those things and make that your passion for the next few, you know, months and years here, right? If necessary. I still firmly believe that we must have accountability. We must have accountability moving forward. You know, we can do all the wonderful things, get the economy going, and, you know, get our military squared away. But we must have accountability, because the people that did the things to our country that have been done, they will do it again, and they will do it again if they're not held to account. So I'm adamant about that. That will be my passion, among other things, but that will be particularly something that I am going to hone in on, is that we must make sure that we hold these people accountable. We are in a really, really good position. We should not be, you know, patting ourselves on the back too much, right? You know, hopefully people got a little bit of rest, and you know, it's like we say, you know, ruck up and move out in the military. You know, it's time to really start to look at what it is that you are very good at, and then get involved. And I've been using this phrase, local action has a national impact, for a long time now, for years. And I have gotten great response from it. And, you know, very positive. A lot of people that have reached out and said, I got involved because I heard something that you said about local action. So I do think that now that matters even more, so that local action, you know, whether it's a grassroots organization, a small podcaster, a big podcaster, everybody got involved and said, enough is enough. And we're going to do everything we can. You know, we're going to get out of the bleachers onto the field, and we're going to get this man over the line and into the victory circle. And we did. And we all ought to feel good about that. One big team. You know, now going forward, as he builds a team, as President Trump builds a team, and as parts of his team are looking at how do we restructure our entire government, which is what's going on, then, you know, we're all going to need to weigh in and make sure that we support that, right? Question things, push buttons, but continue to move forward to get this country back. I mean, we still have a couple of months left, you know, to where, you know, where Trump will be in office and be able to really, you know, kick into high gear. But I'll just wrap it up with, because I'm here at a hospital visiting a guy who, you know, almost lost his life, a good friend of mine. I want everybody to understand that prayer still matters a lot. And so pray for Trump and his family, because these people are not done. That, you know, the demons that are out there, the evil that we face, they're not done trying to destroy this man. So say some prayers for him, and all of us that are that are doing things, you know, just great, you know, lighting small fires on this battlefield of America, and then making sure that those fires continue to burn. I want everybody to keep that going. Don't let this thing die out, right? Because we're there, and now we're going to leave it up to Trump to do whatever he needs to do, or whatever the team is that he puts together. You know, this is only one group, one man, and we have a giant movement that is not a cult. It is a movement, and it is a movement to basically reform and resurrect this country back to what it was. So, Steve, thanks so much for allowing me to come on, or, you know, a little bit later here today. Jovan, it's always good listening to you because you're so smart about this stuff, and you really do know. Boy, we gotta figure out how to plug you in, and I'll throw it back to you, Steve. Thank you.
And we'll have you on again, and hope everything is good with your friend. Liz Harrington, you're up. You're a great patriot, one of our leaders in the country, and we love you.
Go ahead, Liz. You're up.
Hey, good to see everyone. Totally agree with what General Flynn was just saying there. I think the biggest impact really with what we just saw over the past week was the prayers. I really don't think President Trump would be in the position he is in today without people all across this country working so hard, but also just praying for this country. And he really shouldn't even be in there because we know how corrupt our elections are. But I think this is the grace of God. I mean, this is an absolute amazing historic movement that we should be very happy about and proud of, because we have now an opportunity to actually get some change, get some of that accountability that General Flynn was just talking about, and make some real lasting change for when President Trump is no longer on the ballot and we don't have the greatest political movement in history anymore. But we need to get to honest elections. And I think that is something that only gets maybe harder, but more profound and important now, because we actually have an opportunity to fix it. We really do now. People can't forget or shrug off the fact that we might not be even having able to have a call like this if President Trump wasn't able to win this election fair and square. And of course, I think he probably won it by an even bigger margin, but the cheating and the corruption in our elections is so bad. And I think so many people were looking at it. It didn't matter how much he was going to win in a landslide. We have so many corrupt offices in different states who frankly don't care if it's absurd to pretend that Kamala Harris would get the most votes in history. But by the grace of God, they didn't do that. They weren't able to do that. President Trump did win. They are obviously trying to limit his effectiveness with the House and Senate. It looks like we will keep the House, but the Senate majority should be bigger. It absolutely should be bigger. And these down ballot races where they kept counting for days and days and days, it cannot happen in this country. And I hope that we can use these down ballot races to shine a light on this issue and make sure we get to honest and fair elections because of what's happening in the down ballot. And so I think it's really important for us to keep pushing this issue. It's the most important issue because without it, you can't have anything else. And we won't have a situation the next time with someone like President Trump on the ballot. No matter who it is, they will not be able to get the popular support that President Trump had. He is a once in a century candidate and leader. And now what we need to do is make sure we back him up and also make sure that we get to free and fair, honest elections. He said this at the end of his campaign. He said, yeah, I'm not going to be on the ballot anymore. Frankly, it won't affect me, but you have to get to paper ballots, voter ID, same day voting. That should be our mission. The machines are obviously a problem. As Tucker Carlson was saying just before the election on Bannon's show, the only reason you would have them is to be able to subvert them. They don't work. They're not faster. They clearly are manipulated. They break down on election day. We saw it once again. No first world country should have these machines. And I don't care who's doing it or what they're doing. They don't work. And we have to, if we're going to have confidence in our elections going forward, we can't use them. We have to get to paper ballots. We have to get to counting, same day counting, by the way. You can't allow them to count for days and days and days. The only reason they're doing that is to cheat. I mean, you've seen it in Arizona. It is criminal what they're doing, adding tens of thousands of ballots after the fact. It's on their website, on these county websites. They're just increasing the number of outstanding ballots by double in some of these counties and not even offering an explanation. This is absurd. We can't allow it in the United States of America. This is what we need to really push, not give up on these races, to say we need real investigations with the authority of the federal government. And you're only going to get that if you get accountability, you get somebody really good in charge. I think President Trump's making some great picks. He has to have a really fantastic pick for AG and some of these other positions so we can get the credible investigations and sunlight on this issue. You know, for 4 years, they haven't just looked the other way. They've done everything they could to cover it up and to arrest and prosecute people who are trying to expose the problem. There needs to be accountability over this. All of those sham indictments need to be dropped. Those people need to be investigated who are holding illegitimate office. And we have to shine a light on it and expose it to get that mandate. President Trump has an amazing mandate right now. And I believe one of those issues is election integrity, because he never stopped talking about it. We have a mandate for this. Expose it, shine a light on the corruption, and then we can use that. And I totally agree. We don't have a ton of time. We have to expose it before the midterms and demand change in all of these states. And I think that's what we have to use this fuel. I'm so thankful for all the people that have worked so hard on this issue all across the country. Truly amazing things have happened. We know so much more now than we did before. But now we really do have an opportunity that, frankly, I didn't think this country was going to get. But now we have it, and we really need to get some real change. And so thank you, Steve. Thanks for everybody and all the hard work. But we have to keep momentum going and make sure we root out this corruption, because it won't be too big to rig in 2028. That's for sure, without a President Trump on the ballot.
Yes, thank you very much. Dan Schultz, appreciate you, and we appreciate you getting President Trump to endorse precinct strategy. Dan Schultz is the head guy, Steve Bannon. So we certainly appreciate it. We'll have you on again. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Marcel Sturbich up.
Hi, good day, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to be with this great group. And before I share my screen and we talk about local action and how we're impacting things here in Ohio, I want to say about 6 months ago, we in Ohio were sleepwalking into another election. Okay. Nobody had the handle on what type of citizens, non-citizens were on our voter rolls. We were collectively organizing for 6 months, a very small group, really isolated in terms of expertise. I had just come out of the Air Force on the intelligence side. And I wanted to dedicate my time to this type of effort because I had a background in technology development within the Air Force. And so we started to put forward legislation. That legislation got into the House. And all of a sudden, our Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, took an interest in the matter and started to ask for non-citizenship data to the Department of Homeland Security. So we forced the conversation, we forced the narrative to be building in Ohio in terms of how many non-citizens are on our voter rolls. And since that point, we've been dedicated to pushing a number of efforts. So I want to share what that looked like in 6 months as a model for you to see how this can be done and how we are no longer just election veracity group, if you want to use Jovan's term, or election integrity group. We are something more than that. And this is kind of our trilogy of how we got to that, okay? How we became a concerned citizen voter coalition project, armed with the theme of protecting the ballot initiative. I'll swing through this in about 10 minutes. It started really in the election cycle in June. We had just like Pennsylvania had right before the election day with 4 different counties. having voter registration dumps, and how it was announced in Maricopa County this election that 90,000 were dumped on the eve of the election, the last day of registration. We too had our own progressive group that dumped a number of fraudulent registrations into Ohio systems. The thing is, we had this group operating for over a year, and there were no actions being taken by our chief election official regarding this group. No, there is no enforcement in our law on what to do with these for-profit commercial voter registration groups. Luckily for us, there was a concerned citizen that went to the Board of Elections in Cincinnati and said, why was my information changed? This forced the appointed Republican Board of Election group to actually have to address this. And we seized upon this to highlight this group. And our Secretary of State had no choice but to come out and start speaking about this group that had been operating in the shadows and had defrauded registration processes through their canvassers in Cleveland the prior year. And so we really seized on this to make a point about this, because we have no means to differentiate suspect registrations from valid ones, and our system doesn't have the early warning and surveillance to detect this. So I'll get to that at the very end. So what I proceeded to do is work with all of these groups, and we built a coalition. These are prominent citizens groups across Ohio, state central committee members, influential people that have maybe 5,000, 1,000, 90,000 people within their group. We leveraged the support efforts with our national on EIN side and points of contact, and they came together in this list, and we wrote a letter to the Secretary of State LaRose, who up to that point had been dismissing or ignoring us to include our legislation, which would have afforded our counties the right to choose the method in which they would be casting their ballots. And so he was no longer able to do that, I think, and this was a tipping point when all of these coalition groups in the summer came out and asked for election integrity matters to be addressed, like lack of verification. Nobody data validates our registrations. Non-citizen voting, we have no upfront verification. We have fraudulent registrations that were dumped on us, duplicate registrations, County Board of Elections not complying with his directives. And we asked for interim solutions that were within the purview of our Secretary of State to take, to identify those that were not confirmed as eligible, for example, to put mismatched identity records in provisional status so they didn't vote a regular ballot, so that they had to cure their vote on election day. And we also wanted our Attorney General, who's vying for office in 26, to investigate voter registration organizations. And we didn't know half the things that we found out, but what that prompted was the Secretary of State sent a memo right after, within the same week, to the legislature now, after 5 months, proposing to undertake the following 3 legislative initiatives within the legislation. An enforcement of our citizenship requirement, which he was suing the Department of Homeland Security to get access to now. Ensuring our accurate voter rolls, meaning that anybody who has not been fully verified cannot vote regular. And then finally, banning drop boxes. That was something that came out of a 10th District Court ruling, which essentially removed our only safeguards to prevent ballot harvesting. And that was a pivot point. All 3 of those were now the basis for us to approach the State House of Representatives. So we worked with these 27 State House reps that comprised about 40% of our Republican State House reps. And we really just tackled what we saw were all the issues that were present all the way from the summer going up until the election. So in the wire coming up to the election, we got this letter signed to further reinforce to Secretary LaRose that the Republican legislature is now serious in Ohio and wants to address these issues head on. So that's where we find ourselves as we go into our lame duck session. And then we got a letter from Secretary LaRose that came to the legislature addressing these issues. And what we learned is, for all of the media attention that came to our state and our Secretary of State, how he was referring non-citizens, the county prosecutors across our state were ignoring his criminal referrals, and the Attorney General did not intend to prosecute illegal voter registrations. So realizing that we have a paper tiger on our hands, we are going to move in the direction of pursuing civil and criminal liability and licensure for voter registration groups, similar to what Florida and 5 other states have done previously. And we want to create a system that there are consequences for third-party voter registration groups, and we'll be working on that in the new General Assembly. These are just an example. This took 5 to 6 months of concerted effort, all the components that Jovan Pulitzer talked about. And what we've come up with is an outline of proposed election legislation in Ohio. The first 3 are going to be worked right now in the lame duck. And then we want to work on some of these other ones. We have no excuse absentee balloting. We have we have one of the first legislations in the country that would have required a third-party security assessment review of all voting systems. I'm familiar with this in the Department of Defense, 3 PAOs, and what they do is they come in and they perform a vulnerability disclosure report. And we wanted to make that a condition to certification of a voting system. We also wanted to introduce the blockchain system into voter registration databases so administrators cannot tamper or hackers cannot tamper with our records without leaving a trace of who changed what and when. All of these were presented to Secretary LaRose. The irony is he's being considered for the CISA director. He did not seek or even sit down with us to discuss these matters. So it is not a very serious proposal or position to want to lead these efforts at the national level if you've not worked with people with expertise in this field. And I just want to point that out on this national show, that these are still out there for him to adopt and or pursue. And we have not received that level of reciprocity or communication with him. Finally, the last one is number 11. We want to restrict activity and introduce penalties for third-party NGOs and for-profit voter registration entities that violate our election law. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. And really, that was just a quick hit. I wanted to give everybody a sense of kind of what the work is in Ohio. We now are 5 months later operating with a wider network of coalition people that are not even just elections. They're a broader coalition that realizes that if they don't have honest or fair elections, their issues, their candidates are going to be, as Marley talked about earlier in the show, taken from them, their property, their representation. So we're going to continue to work hard. And we appreciate the opportunity to come on with this story group, and I'm taking any questions if anybody has.
Thank you very much. Mel K, you on?
Melke, just turn on your camera and you should be good to go.
Mel will be right in.
All right, great.
While she's coming in, we'd like everybody to sign up for sternamericannews.com. We're going to have some tremendous stuff going on. Go to Stern American. We're expanding all over the place. Got to thank Jovan for all the help he's given me over the years. And, you know, he's a dear friend. And I got to tell you that you should go to Jovan's program, sign up for that. Mel K, who's coming on now, is a fantastic person. She's got the Mel K Show. We got yournews.com. Really big help for all of us. Yournews.com. Get his app. Download his thing. It's going to go public. You want to get on the ground floor. What I'm wearing, Steve Bannon came on, did us a favor. Get his shirt. Standwithbannon.com. We only have a couple of hundred left. That man has done unbelievable 4 hours a day on TV. He gets up around 3:30. Really terrific guy. Mel, you're on.
Oh, great. Thank you for having me. Wow. It's been quite a journey with you, Steve Stern. And what a warrior you've been and an inspiration to so many people, including myself. I do want people to fully understand that we are now at a place where we have to triple down on our local action when it comes to not just elections, but also city council, land management, every single thing. Our schools, not just our schools themselves, but what kind of technology and data collection they're using. We got to look around for any kind of globalist or sustainable development surveillance that is being placed all over this country in your backyard. All of us would like the swamp to be drained, but I think a lot of people don't realize the swamp has been infiltrating your local community all the way, whether it's your neighborhood or your county or obviously your state. So I just know this is a great win and we should be excited. I really feel the heavy lifting starts now, and that also includes putting out the hand and opening the tent to people that aren't necessarily, full MAGA or full Maha, but we had a lot of people vote for their family and their future in this country that might not know about our election integrity programs or everything we've been doing for the last 4 years or all the local action that is going on. So I'm very excited, but I really hope that we all realize that the war is still raging. Woke is not dead. The globalists are having a big conference right now, the COP Conference 29, talking about their regionalized global governance, global government. So, you know what? It's sand in the gears to this end of sovereignty that they'd all like to control with totalitarian track and trace surveillance and Agenda 2030. So Trump has given us a respite, but I really do hope people understand this is the first line that we're crossing. The other lines really are about removing the very deep-seated agendas that have been implanted, and I believe first were implanted locally, starting all the way back in the 60s, if not before then. And though it's very, very exciting, I think we also really have to remember there's lots of people that voted for Donald Trump that never voted at all, that never voted Republican, and that are homeless politically. And I hope people realize that those people are a wealth of support and can really, really add to all of this. So we do have to make a real effort locally and certainly county by county to include them.
Okay, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Anything else?
Well, I mean, really, I'm just very excited, but I don't want people to get, to think that the momentum now is that there's no respite here. We probably have 2 years till the next election cycle, and we have to attack all of the election stuff right now, including that it looks like 2024 shined a light on the actual fraud of 2020. Certainly 400,000 more people did not vote in Georgia in 2020 than 2024, and the whole world could see that. So we have a lot of work to do, but I mean, my concern is that people will rest on their laurels and think that they, we won. We actually just want a respite. We have a lot more to do.
Tell us how we can get to your show. You have one of the best shows
thank you.
around. I've been on it a couple of times and I love it. And I know that
Well,
you've been
thank
all over
you.
the country. So tell everybody how to get on.
Well, thank you. Actually, for what I'm talking about, I want people to know I have a new book out called Americans Anonymous, Restoring Power to the People, One Citizen at a Time. I'm very proud of that. And Jovan was a big influence on my work as well. So I do want to thank him. And he's been an excellent friend to me. So you can find me at themelkshow.com. I have a free resource page where you can find a lot of this local action, and also become your own Paul Revere in your community to keep people alert and aware and informed and active. And every single night I have a show, The Mel K Show, with a different guest almost every night, a news show on Wednesday nights. And we are everywhere free speech still exists. So The Mel K Show and themelkshow.com.
Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Beck, you're up.
Good on
Okay,
mute.
thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. Great to be with everyone on the call today. Let me,
Hey, good looking shirt. Good looking shirt.
yeah, that's my Steve Stern Memorial shirt here. I wear them and sell them out of my headquarters. So it's great to have those. I'm going to share. I want to first put in the plug for Cleta Mitchell's Election Integrity Network. The group that I manage here in North Carolina statewide is called the North Carolina Election Integrity Team, and we're a part of the National Election Integrity Network. And I do want to do a shout out to Wendy Nissan from Florida, Robin Sachs from Maryland, Ned Jones from Virginia, who's a part of that network, Barry Chapman, Marcel Sturbich, who was just on, Steve, yourself, and then Garland Favorito from Georgia, and a bunch of others who are dialed in right now to this call. Really want to give a shout out to all of them because they're great patriots. They contribute magnificently to Cleta's work nationwide. It is the one and ubiquitous system that's nationwide. I think there's at least representation from all 50 states in some manner, some capacity, and this is the network, as Jovan was talking about earlier. This is the network that you need to plug into because it not only is it ubiquitous, it has all the stakeholders nationally involved in it, to include Steve Stern and his network. So just really think that Cleta's network is where people should plug into. We address a number of things, and I want to bring one of those up in the insight team.
Isn't she?
And somebody needs to mute, but
You're muted. Raj, you got him muted for some reason.
Jim, can you go ahead and unmute, please? Jim, can you unmute?
Yeah, I got you. I got you. So as part of CLEDA's analysis and decomposition of the election systems in place today, we in North Carolina decomposed that into the 8 lanes of election integrity, and this is where we've been working. There is a cycle of activity that goes on through every election, and your focus during those various stages in the cycle shifts. And so, we just got through with an election. We're doing a post-mortem analysis of the things that went well, things that didn't go well, and our focus now going into the long session here in North Carolina, the General Assembly. And the statutes that they pass. That's where our focus will be for the next few months in trying to get corrections to the vulnerabilities that we have in the election. People like Barry Chapman from Virginia have pointed out a lot of the risk vectors that are affecting our elections. And that's what we really want to focus on, is how to correct the deficiencies in the election system so that we can make free and fair elections possible in the future. Elections are like train wrecks. You can only look back at the things that happened. You can't undo the train wreck. You can look back, figure out what went wrong, and how to correct it for the future, so you don't have more train wrecks in the future. But that's the kind of thing that our team is focused on. We're really going to go back to work on list maintenance and the correction of the problems. We have probably 15% of our voter list in North Carolina are still improper, either duplicates or non-citizens or dead people. We've got to get that fixed for the future elections and make it so that it stays fixed. We have to investigate the problems with the machines that went awry during this election cycle. And then, of course, legislative advocacy and oversight is really important. And if you don't get your election laws fixed in your respective states, you're never going to be able to have free and fair elections. And that's where our focus has to be as these various legislatures go back into session. We got to focus our energy on that. The operations, the training that go into election cycles, we're going to de-emphasize that for the moment while we focus on getting the legislative fixes. So let me just talk very briefly about North Carolina's team this last year. We had 2,100 volunteers that were working very aggressively throughout the cycle. They were trained and ready poll observers. They headed off or stopped or reported virtually every instance of in-person voting fraud that we would have encountered in the past. Things that we've seen endemic in the process in the past were headed off because of these 2,100 poll observers around the state. And we have an operational reporting system. It's called SEERS, our statewide election integrity reporting system. It was built by a local analyst, and it bottoms up reports everything in the cycle, where you can fix every problem at the lowest practical level. It's like a help desk application, but it's a lot more robust, and we can track and coordinate these issues in the aggregate, and then take those back as evidence to the General Assembly of problems that are still present in our election systems. So we use our SEERS reporting system to capture for posterity all the things that are improperly administered or managed within the election cycle, and then we can report that back to get corrective action taken. That SEERS system works really well for us. We've actually had it running in several states in the past. We're hopefully going to propagate it nationally in the next few months and years. Okay, so a number of our judges and workers around the state, poll judges and poll workers that are employees of the state, have been trained by our team. So we've got probably 10% of the workforce around the state now has been trained, and all the statutory provisions, all the things that need to be done and taken care of in the polling sites, made more familiar with the state laws and with the changes that are coming in state laws. That was really helpful for us this election cycle. Now we have people on the inside who are managing the elections and directing the activities there, that are trained by our people and are experts in election law, so that they're even more effective at enforcing the rules that were in place. Couple of other training principles that we put in place this year. This is a CLEDA narrative. Be polite and be right. This is one thing you win a lot more favor in the election business if you're polite, but you're also correct. You know the law, you know how to apply the law. be polite, be right. That's a principle that we applied this time. I mentioned fix every problem at the lowest practical level. A lot of the RNC and NCGOP types of people would like for you to elevate every problem to the highest level and let them trickle it back down. That's not the way systems work. You have to report at the lowest level and then escalate as appropriate. That's the way you fix problems. That's what our SEER system does, and we did it very effectively this time. The last thing I wanted to mention is that we've got enormous work to do in the area of audits. No state in the country, and Barry can testify to this, no state in the country does an effective election postmortem audit or election procedures audit like SOC 2 in the auditing business. That's something that really has to be dealt with going forward. Audits are really important to build voter confidence. And currently, if you were to survey the nation, you'd find out that less than half the nation believes that our elections are free and fair. They don't trust the outcomes of the elections, either at state or federal level. The only way you're going to fix that and get that great appreciation for our election system is if you do audits which look at everything from the voter list to the machines to the procedures that are being followed by the election officials. If you don't do audits, if you don't put provisions in place in your state to perform a rugged, a regimented audit that's done year round through all the processes that are involved in an election, you're not going to be successful in convincing voters that the election system is honest and straightforward. So I'll leave it there. Yes, sir.
1 minute.
Yes, sir. I'm done. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you very
Steve. I
much for
appreciate
getting on there. I just, couple of things. I want to thank two people that have made it possible to help me do this. One is John Farrow, who never comes on. He works for me every day. He's behind the scenes. And in California, Tina Salim, who's been with me for 1.5 years, helps us with all the people in California. The next person I want to introduce, every time we have our calls, we're going to have one podcaster on. Well, we have a podcaster on, Dan Smariglio, who I met at Turning Point, and he is probably our largest podcaster, podcasting to all over the world. So come on down, Dan.
Dan, go ahead and unmute, please. Okay, you're unmuted.
I don't know why you can't see me. I apologize. I was having no video issues before, so my sincere apologies to everybody. I guess the camera doesn't want to cooperate. I want to start off by saying it's an honor to be here and to be on the call. And I just got to say, from all my years doing what I do, that I've met so many great people along the way, but Steve Stern has been just an absolute gem, a blessing from God, and a true hero. So, Steve, I can never thank you enough. We met you at the Believers Summit when we were on Media Row with the Turning Point event. And this man has just been, he doesn't get enough credit for all that he actually does and how much he actually cares about the fight and the integrity of what we all do. And I'm just so grateful for him. So I apologize again that you can't see me. I don't know why, but I'm probably sparing your eyes in the process. So I do want to say that we are here and we have something built that started really in 2006 when I got into the world of activism. And I held over 300 rallies in 28 states between 2007 and 2010, fighting against illegal immigration, corruption. We broke Kids for Cash in Northeast Pennsylvania, brought a lot of bad people down, all while taking no money and just doing the right thing. And I think that kind of parlays into what I wanted to talk about is the importance of, I got tired of being banned and being censored and everything else that comes with it with regards to the media. And I figured, how do you beat that? You see a problem, create a solution. So I was on traditional radio. I got offered an opportunity. They tried to censor me, and I told them where they can go. And then I started my own online radio show and then built it to an online radio network in 2007, which wasn't very popular to do. And it didn't really hit until a 24/7 streaming thing until 2020. But regardless, we're in 98 countries. We're heard by 64 million people a month. Our shows generate over 4.2 million people a listen. And we've been blessed, thanks again to Steve Stern. We had General Flynn on yesterday. We've had Rudy Giuliani. We've had so many great heroes, and we've also had so many people in the fight. And something that was brought up earlier in the call was we put everybody on the air. I don't care, who you are. If you have something to say that's important that other places may not want to give you a voice, we will always, always, always put you on. And it's because I believe free speech is absolute. And just like election integrity is so very important, but one of the most important things in the world to me as well is integrity, period. And something that I shared yesterday while General Flynn was on the show, and our shows, you could find it every Thursday night, is PolitiShock. That's the show that's been going for almost 18 years, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And, we made many friends along the way and a lot of enemies, and that's okay. But something that I believe is missing is integrity, period. And that comes from the local level. We left Pennsylvania, my wife and I, Hollis, who is my partner in crime, and she's the only one that helps me do everything. And it's a hell of an undertaking because we're fighting a whole establishment that doesn't want people like us heard. But regardless, we keep pushing forward. When I started out, again, which led to the Kids for Cash thing being exposed and everything else in 2008 in Pennsylvania, we went across the country, held our events, and people came to us. And it happened again not that long ago when we moved to northern Maine, where we currently reside, right on the Canadian border. We've been up here for almost a year, and we decided to hold a rally in support of President Trump on June 1st. It was my first rally since 2010 in Phoenix, Arizona. And nobody tried to shut us down more than the Republican Party up here. They worked night and day to get people to not come. We got credit, if you want to call it that, from the USA Today. We were the first rally after the indictments or the convictions in New York, in support of President Trump. But regardless, I seen what it was up here. And so many people, nobody thinks of Aroostook County, northern Maine, as being riddled with corruption, but it's everywhere. People don't trust law enforcement. They don't trust local officials. They don't trust elected officials or unelected officials. They were coming to us, telling us their stories. And the stories are atrocious. It's like any story out there, anywhere across the country. Small towns, small areas go unnoticed. So my mission is to go back to the core. We have built something now where, yes, we bring in absolutely no money. All we have literally is a MyPillow promo code, thanks to the generosity of Mike Lindell. And other than that, we have nothing else. And it's hard to do it out of pocket. Work full-time jobs. My wife works full-time job, and we keep this going. But regardless, we have to continue to promote transparency and to root out evil no matter where it lies. So our next mission is going back to the core, back to the roots, if you will. And we are going to start our campaign to go across the country and to give, once we have rooted out issues, people coming to us, people reaching out to us, telling us their stories throughout the country, we vet it, we know it's legit, then we're going to go out there, we're going to give them a voice, we're going to expose, we're going to confront, we're going to root it out and destroy the evil on a local level, destroy the corruption on a local level. And the beauty is, it doesn't matter to us if the media doesn't want to cover it, because we'll be going live right there on location. And again, we're blessed to be out there so far, so wide. And it's an honor to be able to broadcast these calls because it's so important. And that is the mission. That's what needs to be done. I think too many people spend so long thinking that, one man can kind of fight the system. And I'm not speaking to this group. One man can do it all. No, it takes more than one man. And you're fighting at the top. We need to also come up from the bottom and really put it out there and give people a voice. And I think that's the most important thing to do in the world. And that's what we're moving towards now. First time in my life I'm ever asking for money from people, trying to raise money to help fund it. Because again, we go out of pocket, So it's the work that needs to be done. And that's why there's so many out there that are doing so much great work on elections, and there's always more to be done. And anybody on this panel, anybody out there knows you always have a spot on any of our radio shows. And the radio website is VOPUSAradio.com, obviously. And of course, our activist website, and this is what I'm going to be pushing right now, is voiceofthepeopleusa.org.
1 minute, Dan.
Sounds good. And I'm asking anyone if you could possibly give it a look, check it out. And if you'd be so kind to at least share the video, if people are willing to donate and help out in this mission, I would appreciate it. voiceofthepeopleUSA.org. Also on Rumble, if you could please follow us on Rumble at VOP USA Radio. And our featured video is all about this campaign. But with that, again, I thank everybody so much for the time. Steve, you are a hero to me. I love you to death. Raj, I never got to talk to you personally, but I love you too, and everybody else. God bless you, and thank you. Thank you for everything.
Well, Dan, you're our #1 guy, getting more people than anybody else, so keep up the good work. So,
My honor.
person Kim Yater, come on down. Miss Border.
Good afternoon. Oh my gosh, Border, are we so excited, you guys? Because now we have the ability to truly take our border back. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kim Yater. I host the Take Your Power Back show. I also am the team lead for Take Our Border Back, which we've reached tens of millions across the country. We've activated We the People. It's all about stepping into our God-given sovereignty and taking our power back as we the people. Now, there's so many incredible speakers that shared today and so many things that have been just going through my mind that I wanted to point out today. But the first thing I want to do is I want to edify Steve. I want to edify Raj. I want to edify every single one of you that are in this room right now, because you are the warriors. I also want to edify those that are watching and listening. It is not by accident that you have come here today. There is a word for every single one of you. And the word that God has put on my heart is, we are not done yet. I remember when my little girl was on a soccer team. I have 4 kids. I'm our grandma. My little Ashley was on the soccer team, and she had this big burly dude coach, Coach Michael. And Ashley was 5 years old. Do you guys remember when you had kids that were that little, that were playing soccer, and you were like, as long as they could just try to kick the ball and not pick the flower, right? Well, there was Ashley and the team, and every single game, this coach, until the very end, would yell out, "You're not done yet!" And as parents, it drove us crazy. But do you know what stuck with my kids? Do you know what stuck with us parents? That we weren't done. We're not done till the fat lady sings, that old saying. We are just getting started. And actually, let me just fast forward. Ashley went on to break the college record at Point Loma Nazarene University, the fastest goal scored in the history of the school, and she still holds it. Why? Because she was taught the power of going. You run the race, not just to run it, but we run the race to win it. Guys, if you are thinking that we've won, this is a taste of win. And the taste of win should propel us to do the work that needs to be done. I just came in from the election event with our new president, God willing, in Jesus' name, Donald J. Trump, in Palm Beach, to a breakaway in Cancun for a couple of days with my team to reset. That resetting is imperative for every single one of you. If you haven't reset, keep your foot on the throttle, but take a moment to reset, because we are just getting started on the next leg of the race, just like General Flynn said. Now, there's something I want to remind you guys of. When I came back from that moment, from being in Cancun, there were so many patriots there. These patriots, they thought we had won and we were done. Right? We won. The hard work's done. The heavy lifting's done. We are in the battle. I was on the phone with Douglas G. Frank this morning, world-renowned physicist, exposes election fraud in 46 states. You guys know him, Mike Lindell's team. Doug says to me, Kim, on the beaches of Normandy, World War II, we hit the beaches of Normandy. We won the first leg of the battle. We still had the next leg of the battle. If we rest on our laurels now, that is when we will be attacked. Our freedoms will be taken. It is imperative that we continue to stand and we run the race to win it. I want to remind you guys of something. I'm going to share my screen real quick, and we're going to pop over here. Not where I wanted to take you guys, but we are going to take you right over to this speech. I think you might remember this guy.
Today's ceremony, however,
Did you hear that?
special meaning.
Yes.
Because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, the people.
Okay, that, my friends, is imperative that we pay close attention to that. You see, we don't have all the power just yet, do we? No, we do not. Hang on one second. Let me X out of this. Obama's popping up on the other screen, and I don't need to hear him right now. None of us need to hear him. But the point is, it is about giving the power back to we, the people. Jim, have you taken your power back? Raj, Dennis, Fanny, Bob, we, the people. You see, there are those of us that are awake. There are those of us that are taking our power back on that local level. With President Trump in place, okay, we still have not certified this election, as we all know. Right? But as he's in this place, we have got to still take our power back locally. I am in the great state of California. Don't feel sorry for me. God has planted me here to run this race and to fight in this great state. But we've got to fight by taking our power back on a local level, just like Mel K said. We've got to get involved. So my radio show, like we just heard from Dan, is the space where I bring in the warriors who are going through the adversity and continuing to stand to remind people that they can do it. So my call to action for every single one of us today is that you spread the word. I'm not preaching. I mean, in this room that we're in right now, I am preaching to the choir. But to every single one of you who came across this broadcast today, this is a word for you. If you're listening, no matter what talents and gifts you have, God has given you those talents and gifts to get involved. Use them to where you are no longer riding on the coattails of your fathers who died for your freedom, but you are putting a stake in the ground and saying, I will fight, fight, fight for my freedom. And we must remember that this war that we were in, yes, where's my book? My Fifth Generation. Yes, we are in the midst of a fifth generation war. Yes, if you haven't read it, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation War. But we are in the biggest spiritual war of our lifetime. Bob Howard, power of prayer. We must pray. If my people, and 2 Chronicles 7:14, you've heard it, but listen closely. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, come to me, pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, and turn, each one of us individually, all of us collectively, our nation, turn from their wicked ways, I will hear their voice, forgive their sins, and heal their land. We are not done yet. We need to pray fervently. We need to come together and pray and declare. When I stood at the Sassabee border a year ago, when I stood at the Sassabee border a year ago, and I looked at that open border with my team, and I had my team stand in the gap. If you're looking at the picture right there, God said, you have them stand in the gap and declare out, close the border, close the border, close the border. Little did I know what God was going to do. Each one of us is called to stand in the gap right now with the gifts and talents he's given us. So my call to action today is to stand, to show up, and to speak up. And for people like Tina Peters, who are behind bars right now, we must support her. TinaPeters.us. She ran the race for every single one of us in the area of election integrity, you guys. The Rosetta Stone of the election fraud. You know that. You've got to support her right now. TinaPeters.us. Go and fund her. That way she can do her shows live from prison. She can also have food to eat. That's not the crap that they're trying to feed her. TinaPeters.us. And last but not least, we have a Take Our Border Back Summit right before Thanksgiving. This is online. Go to takeourborderback.com. This summit is going to be absolutely incredible because do you want to know how to have the conversations with your family members at the Thanksgiving table? and with your friends and family. Join us and our speakers who are experts in this arena so that we know how to support our friends and families from being the turkey of the deep state and have relationships that actually work without fire hosing people. The Bible says the heart is deep waters. A wise man draws out the heart. Guys, thank you for thank you for allowing me to speak today. Kim Yater, takeyourpowerbackshow.com. Raj and Steve.
Thank you, Kim.
For being the warriors you are. God bless you.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for bringing it. Thank you so much. We're bringing Ivan Raiklin on now. Ivan Raiklin, we have still more speakers here. You are asking about where do you get the recording. The best way to get the recording is to get it from sternamerican.com. Sternamerican.com, click the Rumble channel, get the recording from there. If you're watching this on any of the live streams, you can get us by texting elections to 91776. Elections to 91776. Mr. Raiklin, welcome to the show. You're up, sir.
Hey, Raj, thanks. I'm just going to take a few minutes. My line of effort, amidst all the people that are fighting for election integrity, kind of focuses in on state legislatures and then our kind of federal Congress primarily. And I think right now, a lot of people are resting on our laurels of a victory. And I'm concerned that because they're basically, it looks as though they're transitioning power over to Trump without a fight right now. I suspect that it's the quiet before the storm. So I'm keeping an eye on what they're going to be doing in the certification process. And also, they're going to try to continue to steal some of these elections. We're starting to see some indications of that in Pennsylvania and Arizona with the 2 Senate races. So I think this is an opportunity for those of us that have touch points with America PAC or the Trump campaign to make sure that, as well as the RNC, that we have enough interest and I guess scrutiny, as well as at the NRSC, now that Tim Scott has been elected as the chair of the NRSC, as well as the NRCC chair, to continue to keep an eye on these House races. I would say if we were to clean up some of these House races, we could probably pick up a few more seats, thus padding that majority that we have in the House. In addition to, as far as the Congress is concerned, one of the big things that I've been working on is exposing the illegal election certification that occurred on January 6th of 2021. And what just took place today in the Senate is should be very concerning to everyone, because Mitch McConnell's beloved John Thune, who is basically besties with Mike Pence, who was presiding over that illegal certification on January 6th, he is now the Senate Majority Leader. And the most important thing that he is going to do, as it applies to that position that most people don't recognize, is he will be appointing the Senate Sergeant at Arms that will continue to cover up the January 6th Fedsurrection parliamentary coup. That's what John Thune will do on January 3rd of next year when the new Congress starts. And what does that mean? That means, well, one thing is that the chair of the Capitol Police Board alternates between House and Senate Sergeant at Arms every year. And so next year, control of the Capitol Police Board through that Sergeant at Arms then rests with the Senate, thus the Senate Majority Leader. Additionally, Mitch McConnell's boy, Thune, gets to confirm everyone or not confirm whoever is appointed by President Trump, to include the architect of the Capitol is appointed by President Trump and confirmed by the Senate. So I've always said that control of the Capitol Police Board is really control of the entire federal budget, because when you control the Sergeant at Arms, you control all the communications and all the video and all the blackmail compromise within the campus of the Capitol. And that is what's going to dictate and create leverage over pushing back against what we just did a mandate for Trump and MAGA and Maha, but unfortunately we have a Senate Majority Leader that is not of that ilk. And the Speaker of the House is leveraged probably by outside forces, particularly Paul Ryan and Faux News, etc. So we have to, my bottom line here in the discussion that I have here in the few minutes that I have is, the call to action is, we must continue to scrutinize the electoral system maximally, continue to clean up voter rolls, and don't just take for granted just because someone's a billionaire or a trillionaire, or just because someone is appointing someone, it doesn't mean that they're the best person for the job. We have to continue to apply and introduce evidence of who is a better person to be in each one of these positions of the remaining positions that will be had in this incoming administration, as well as in Congress. So with that, if you guys want to follow any detailed work I do on all these subjects, I'm on Rumble, I'm on X. So that's all I have, Raj, and thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. And how do people find you on Rumble and X, Ivan?
Yeah, my last name is spelled Raiklin, but my Twitter handle or my X handle is Ivan Raiklin, Raiklin. And then same thing with my Rumble channel.
Thank
Those
you.
are the two free speech platforms that didn't bend a knee, and those are the ones that I will be supporting myself with content.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you for coming in. Thanks for the work you do. And Jerome, you're up next, sir.
Thank you very much. This is Jerome Corsi, and our work on election integrity has been done through gods5stones.com. You can take a look at that site. It's GODS, no apostrophe, spell out 5, FIVE, and stones is plural, STONES, gods5stones.com. What we've done is we have discovered a series of algorithms, which are these cryptographic codes that we found in the state Board of Election databases, the voter databases of a variety of states, including 4 of the 5 battleground states. In other words, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona. We also found these codes in New York, New Jersey. We'll be reporting there, in Texas as well. These are, I'm pretty sure that there are codes of this nature in virtually every one of the state databases. Now, the purpose of these codes, these are secret codes, and they are number schemes that Dr. Andrew Paquette found, which allow for the criminals, and I think it's actually the intelligence agencies. I think this is an intelligence operation that has actually penetrated into our state board of elections and is controlling the state board of election databases. With these algorithms embedded, what they can do is they can create false voters, voters who don't exist. And they can hide them in the database so that they look like they are legitimate voters, which means that they get a state ID number. That way you've got a false voter that it's like a card marking scheme where, you basically have to open the card deck and shuffle it so you can start putting cards in that look random, look like all the other cards. Those are your marked cards. And the same here, they reorder the way the state gives out its voter IDs, not by the date you register, but by an algorithmic scheme, number scheme. So it mixes up all the numbers, and false voters get mixed in. They look like they're real voters. False voters may be clones, they're duplicate votes. They could be dead or people who moved out of the state. They can be people who are just made up, or they can be purged voters that are put back into the database. Now, because we found these algorithms and publicized it, and of course, the mainstream media has censored our efforts, but it's been widely seen throughout the country, and we work with the many voter integrity groups throughout the country. We've been able to educate a large army of poll watchers and others so that the Democrats did not use these algorithms in the mail-in ballot schemes in the presidential election this time around. They did use it in the down ballot elections. And so we have a lot of elections now that should be contested, and we're looking at a variety of them. For instance, the one that has interested me most is this Eric Hovde election, which Eric was running for the Senate in Wisconsin. And right through election night, he was leading until 4 a.m. They dumped 100,000 mail-in ballots from Milwaukee that were 99% for his opponent, and suddenly the opponent won. Now, again, I think these are indications that the algorithms were used, false voters were called out of the deck and voted, and the mail-in ballots that appeared because it was a false voter that had a legitimate ID was able to be counted as a legitimate vote. Now, what I'm wanting to do at this point is to take God's 5 stones and to begin an effort to work with candidates who lost close elections, especially where there were mail-in ballots that made a lot of difference. And I see we have Jovan Hutton Pulitzer on this call, and I want to be in touch with him because he's done excellent work on the forensic analysis on the mail-in ballots that has to be done in order to prove that they're fraudulent. Because this scheme allows you to do the fraudulent voting from within the algorithms by people who are not in the State Board of Election. The State Board of Election computer has to be penetrated by outside forces. The algorithm has to be put into place. It's very complicated. I think it does involve an intelligence operation. And they can literally vote these false voters whenever they choose to do so. Now, in Wisconsin, they've got nearly 2 million clone voters, which means duplicate voters in the database. Those can easily be used to do false voters. Okay, now if you go to gods5stones.com, and by the way, right there on the homepage, I list my email, which is JRLC, my initials, Jerome Robert Louis Corsi at yahoo.com. And I encourage people to be in touch with it, JRLC at yahoo.com. Touch with us about these elections that are considered to be fraudulent, and they can be investigated. It's good to do it quickly. I want to get some of these elections before they are certified. I want to go into some of the federal district courts and get injunctions before they're certified, because we learned from 2020, challenging a certified election is much more difficult. Now, the whole idea here is to be able to say that the database, if it has an algorithm in it, if it has this kind of a code, then what you got is already a criminal event has occurred, because it should not have a scheme in it, a coding scheme that alters the data or allows you to hide data, including false voters. So some criminals, we don't know who put these in the scheme. I can't identify today who did it. My suspicions that it's intelligence operation, as I've said. I believe the national intelligence agencies are trying to run our elections. I think we are and have been living in a Truman Show where we think the elections are real, but they're not. And I do believe that we stopped a lot of the use of the algorithm in the presidential election only this time. Now, if we can get a campaign like Eric Hovde's campaign to be willing to challenge the steal, I think we can get a district court judge to issue injunctions. I think we can get the right to do forensic inspection of the ballots. We can bring in our team, which is able to identify which of the ballots that have been stolen. We can already give them the list of the 2 million or close to 2 million clone votes, which almost for sure about 845,000 that we've identified that are absolutely positively duplicate votes. And because everything matches, name, birth date, etc. All the records match. As you get fewer, for instance, if you don't have birth dates, you can find more matches. And sometimes the birth dates are missing on these records. Okay, now that's another problem with the records. The databases the states are using are intentionally riddled with errors, with ballots that should be taken off. In Georgia, we were able to find that there were 3,000 early voters this year who voted early. And if you take a look at the early voting history, the state Board of Election records as to who voted early, these voters are listed. And if you look at those voters' individual histories, it shows they voted early. But then if you look at the voter registration database, they're missing. In other words, as soon as they voted the illegal vote, the criminals removed that voter ID from the voter registration list because they had to have been on the list in order to have voted. Another case we found in Georgia that one voter who had moved to South Carolina was still on the voter registration list. The criminals voted that vote. Then they created a clone. They took the original vote off the database of the voter registration and they voted the clone Then they took the clone off and returned the original record. So that record of someone who moved to South Carolina was voted twice. And we have the actual vote that was done that way. So we can say, here is a vote that was fraudulently voted. In other words, we're not arguing hypothetical. We can show you actual voters. And if we get the mail-in ballots and can do a forensic search, if the numbers of people who mailed in mail-in ballots, I'm sure the number of those a large number are going to be in the clones. It's not just a matter of sending people out canvassing to go knock on doors and see if the mail-in voters really exist. You do a lot of this work from within the computer system, provided you get access and cooperation from the computer, from the State Board of Election, to give you the access to the various databases they have of voters who voted, what dates they were in the database, which dates they were out of the database, whether purged databases were restored. In Georgia, we found that 50,000 purged records were restored, and it made active voters, which means they were not erased or eliminated. So Georgia looks like it has essentially two separate voter registration lists, one legal and one illegal. The point is they've got to mix them together, which is so complicated that it demands a computer algorithmic scheme in order to keep track of these votes and to do it correctly. Or in other words, to vote the illegals, find the illegals, the illegal votes, the false votes, and these are not illegal aliens, they're just false records that are sometimes just ghost records completely made up, to find them, to note that they were voted, to see if they were removed from the voter registration after they voted. Okay, now that's a forensic operation. And again, if we go to the down ballot elections, we can prove that the algorithms are still being used, even though we didn't see the patterns. It's the other thing we're emphasizing. God's Five Stone is the website. G-O-D, no apostrophe S, 5 spelled out F-I-V-E, and Stones, S-T-O-N-E-S, godsfivestones.com. And we're going to continue the work for two reasons. Number one is I want to pursue some of these close elections and do forensic analyses of them, and the ability to actually, before they're certified.
30 seconds, sir.
Before they're certified, to actually check and see that we can show illegalities having occurred so the election can be overturned. We overturned one election in the United States by showing fraud. We're going to make a huge impact. And number two, we want to continue our efforts to find a voting system that works. Our current voting system is messed up beyond repair. These voting databases are beyond recovery. The states are not even attempting to maintain legitimate databases. The databases are fraudulent because that's the way the states want them. It's the way the parties want them. We've got to get beyond this uniparty. We've got to get back to voter integrity, or else we have and in fact, last point I want to make is that these are not just criminal events. These now, I think, are going into traitorous schemes to destroy election integrity. Thank you. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thanks, Steve Cern. God bless this entire voter integrity effort, and we're honored to participate. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jerome. We appreciate it. We're bringing Fani on next. Fani, thanks for being here. You're up, sir.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Steve. Just want to quickly introduce myself. I got involved with election integrity work right after 2020. And during the course of the last 4 years, I have been involved with the voter roll accuracy because that's where I felt my talents and my skills could contribute to remedying so many faults that everybody has just, kind of deeply discussed very well. I formed checkmyvote.org, which is a volunteer-driven voter roll inaccuracy identification and rectification toolkit. We're live in Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee. And I was so thrilled about this last Tuesday when Trump won a race that was rigged from the get-go against him, because we could see every month in the voter rolls what was going on, and we're really apprehensive about what's going to happen in the election, with so many odds stacked up against him from day one. But it was a great reprieve, and I just call it a reprieve because while I saw that many people were busy celebrating, including myself, the evildoers continued to lurk in the darkness of the night, and they pivoted. The Democrats Democrats, I would say, pivoted over to stealing the House and Senate races. And I'll give you an example because I was looking at data. The Michigan's one of the Senate races, Mike Rogers was LSS Slotkin, and Mike Rogers was leading by a 5 percentage point up until the nighttime. And early in the morning, 3 a.m., there was a ballot dump of 928,000 ballots, which flipped the entire game. And Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat, was declared a winner by a 0.3%. I mean, why does this kind of stuff happen only in battleground states where counting is slow? Oh, look, Arizona just counted one more ballot, fantastic, so it's just unbelievable. It's a joke, but it's not funny because I just get enraged when this kind of stuff is pulled right in front of my eyes. And, being involved so many years, I just feel like the battle is not over, like many of the great minds earlier just like mentioned, Jovan, and then everybody else that I just heard speak all through this meeting was wonderful because I just feel like, yeah, many people are thinking the same way. It's not over. And what really made 2024 tick and come out ahead in Trump? It's unsustainable, first of all, because beating a rigged race every time is unsustainable. You cannot say that we won and we're good. Offense and defense both worked out great. Like the too big to rig, fantastic, because when you overwhelm the polls, the fraud becomes very apparent. From a data analytics standpoint, I can say that if people don't turn out to the polls, they can easily kind of repurpose, reattribute votes to low propensity voters and kind of steal elections. So the turnout was amazing, but also the defense aspect of it, of election integrity, all the poll watchers, many eyes on this thing going on, also played a great role. And even now we're seeing that the Democrats are preparing up to prop up resistance to Trump by stealing these House and Senate races. And even before the election, we caught the Uokava. I mean, there was a big area of overseas absentee ballots where things were going on. We broke an article on Gateway Pundit just about 2 months ago, and that's key. Be proactive, like many others have said. Reactive is not going to work because it's just going to be impossible. We saw what happened after 2020. You cannot react and remedy something that has been certified. You got to be proactive. You got to catch things as they're happening. And this was one of the biggest finds that I think was greatly impactful. I get a daily FOIA request fulfilled from the state of Michigan. By the way, I forgot to mention I live in Michigan and I work primarily with Michigan voter rolls. But on October 28th, 40 days of absentee voting, right? Every day I get a file. In that file, it tells me how many people have cast their ballots. Simple file, right? And if you don't mind, I could just share my screen. And this is kind of went viral on Twitter right after I found this thing on that day. Just share that. So what you're seeing here is a graph of what I found. On October 28th, we found there were 82,647 voters cast an excess of 125,428 votes. So that is a ratio of 2.51 votes per person. And it was creeping up all along. I was watching it from October 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and October 28th, it just kind of, you see those big towers there. And we broke the news. Within an hour, our Secretary of State came back and said, oh, it was a glitch. Forget about it, move along. And it just became a hush-hush. And then but the questions still remain. Were these ballots counted? What happened there? Nobody wants to answer any of those questions. But those are important questions because I know what is going to happen in the next midterms or as elections are coming up. They're going to steal your school board seats. They're going to steal your local, county commissioner, your land grabbing, all of this stuff. And then they're going to prop it up all the way to the state. They also believe in local action, national impact. We have to act on that proactively than what they're doing. And absolutely, the school board members are the ones teaching your kids. I mean, presidency is one thing. They're at 80,000 foot level. They're like at the federal level. But really what impacts our lives are who is teaching your kids in the schools, what their agendas are. And if you turn a blind side saying, hey, the president is Donald Trump, let's just go back to business, things are going to get worse. One man can't fix everything. And it's thanks to all these people who are here and thousands of Check My Votes volunteers across 3 states have contributed in large part to keeping eyes on every day on what's going on. And that's, has to be repeated and just kind of, kept in our minds that it's not over. Like Thomas Jefferson, one of my favorite presidents, said, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. You cannot let your guard down. And you cannot, I don't want to repeat what others have said. I'm preaching to the choir here, really. But what I want to bring up here is the point that many others made, especially I think Jovan and Michael Flynn and General Michael Flynn, everybody else saying local action, national impact, which is great, jives very well with the way I designed Check My Vote, because our data is available down at the precinct level, and we have precinct delegates and leads looking at data in their own precinct. And think about it, the numbers are manageable. If you throw numbers at people like, hey, Michigan's got 350 registrations that are in question, a normal individual would look at that number and go, I can't possibly do anything about it. It's such a large number. But when you look at a precinct and just look at your neighborhood, your numbers are like 150 or 200. A bunch of people after church having coffee could tackle all of them in a weekend, maybe 2 weekends. And that's what we've seen happen in Michigan. It's been wildly successful over the past 2-3 years. We've made 20 to 25,000 challenges and converted them over to challenge state because of people like that working at a precinct level. And what's next with Check My Vote? Transparency. FOIA, open records requests, are the most strongest tool in our arsenal. In my experience, I have filed many FOIA requests, and I get all my data from there, point out problems in their own data and show it back to them. As a matter of fact, if I could share one more screen here, because I exposed one more thing last month. We just put our Secretary of State in the hotspot. And what happened really was that there was a question that Elon Musk asking, basically, are there more voters in Michigan than there are, are there more people on the voter rolls in Michigan than of voting age population? Well, I went and it's a simple research query. I pulled the data up. And then basically, Jocelyn Benson is our Secretary of State. She says, dangerous disinformation. Yes, there are more people in there, but because there is this NBRA Section 8D rule that allows them to be on there for 2 federal election cycles before getting removed. I said, okay, let's take that. Since you want to talk law, let's pick this up. And I went and researched how many people were in voter challenge status as of November 1st, 2020. Almost 500,000. It's 455,000. Okay. And as of October 1st, 2024, about 692,000 were in challenge status. But out of that, 74,609 linger in that same challenge status from November 1st, 2020. So we caught you lying, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, because you said that in future, these extra ones will get removed. Well, what happened in the past? Why weren't they removed? And we put this out on Twitter. This just went viral. There's 45,000 views. But I thank Steve Stern and Raj for giving me this platform, because I do make a little bit of impact, because I like PIE, Jovan, I like how you break down all those things. But PIE, public influence, because I do data work, I only know data, and I don't have a platform to kind of expose these. Twitter has been great. Emerald Robinson has been great. Steve Stern, they've been great to kind of get my word out with my findings. And I continue to look into the data. And my plan is to use, again, the challenges I expect are the Secretary of State is going to chip away at transparency. Because I've found so many things, they stopped giving me some of the important data fields in the FOIA request. And I proceeded to sue the BOE, and I think I got 2 hearings already under the belt, but there's another hearing coming up in next month for my case against the BOE for release of that information, which without which my hands are tied with audit work. So transparency is key. FOIA is your strongest tool. Get your data, and analyze it. If you don't have the skills to analyze data, pass it along to organizations like True the Vote, amazing organization, Eagle AI, Dr. Rick Richards, myself, Check My Vote. We are there. There's a lot of data analysts hungry to munch on that data and provide analysis. And we have a great process at Check My Vote to double check all our work, and everything that we put out on Twitter is just 100% accurate. We don't go out, jump out of our chairs at the first finding. We peer review multiple times and get our data out. And it's important. Everything is in the data. Data facts, no one can refute. But if you talk in thematic terms, stuff like
2 minutes.
Thank you. Anecdotal evidence like, hey, this dead person voted, that dead person voted. Well, that's not going to go anywhere. You got to show it in the data, and you got to have affidavits, and you got to get into the system through a legal means. First of all, you got to exhaust your administrative pathways before you go seek legal relief, because first of all, you have to say, well, I went to the clerk and respectfully said, hey, this person does not live where I live at, which is a great feature in Check My Vote, by the way. If you go to audit my address, it'll tell you who lives at your home or who's registered to vote from your home. And we found a lot of places where there are people registered to homes that they don't even know. I don't know who this person is. I live here. Go to the clerk and lawfully request them to be removed. When the clerk tells you that, no, we're not going to be removing them, we're going to keep them on the voter rolls for 2 federal election cycles, that's when you say, well, no, I live here. It's a digital intrusion on my property. And then you can get into the legal relief aspect of it. So these are all tools in our arsenal that I've worked for the last 2 years or through 2.5 years that I've been involved with the website. But before that, I was more like attending rallies and talking to the school board members, etc. But anyway, that's all I wanted to share today. And I'm so happy to be here listening to all these
Thank you,
great minds
Fani.
speak. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Fani, people are asking for your contact information, and Wayne Root is coming right after this. Go ahead, Fani, with your contact.
Yes, check myvote.org, and on X, I'm Deluxe Cipher. On X, I'm Deluxe Cipher. I'll just paste it in the chat here. DELUXEPSYPHER, Deluxe Cipher on Twitter.
Thank you very much. And Wayne Root, you're up. Thanks for being with us, and thank you,
Before
Fani, for all your blogs.
Before Wayne gets on, I just want to say that Wayne Root was the first guy that said President Trump is going to sweep this election. And he and I were on together last night, and I got to congratulate him because while everybody was saying, all these polls were coming out saying, oh, President Trump is a little bit ahead, he was saying that's ridiculous. He's way ahead. I also want to thank everybody. I just got some orders from from Spain, from London, for the flagshirt.com. So we got a lot of great Americans wearing our flag shirt, which is very important. I got to get one for Wayne so he can wear it when he comes on the show next time. So Wayne, thank you for everything you're doing, and it's all yours.
Well, first of all, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. We can see you. We love you.
So fire away. Tell me what, give me a little Q&A here, Steve. What do you want me to talk about?
You were with President Trump numerous times. Give us a little background. You interviewed him. You've been with him for a long time. Tell us why he won the election.
Well, first of all, are you aware of the news? Because you're on the air. President Trump has nominated Matt Gaetz as Attorney General of the United States. I mean, this is like the most amazing, unbelievable, unusual, unique news I've ever heard. I mean, it probably beats Pete, Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. I mean, Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Trump must want Matt Gaetz to go after everybody. I mean, this is like Machiavelli updated for 2025. I love it. I love it because the only way to teach a lesson to your opponent who's vicious, who's bitter, who's vile, who's violent, who persecutes you like a Nazi or a Soviet communist, the only way to get them to stop and make sure it never happens again is to go after them and put them in prison. And believe me when I tell you, this lineup, he named Tulsi Gabbard moments ago, National Security Director, and Matt Gaetz, Attorney General of the United States, Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. Truly an amazing lineup of people who are outside the Beltway that don't really give a crap about what Beltway insiders think or the establishment thinks or the Democrats think or the communists think or the deep state thinks or the DC swamp thinks. This is an amazing development. I mean, this is Christmas come early when I see this list of who Trump has nominated. I am so excited to be part of all of this team. And I hear that Kash Patel is going to be named head of the FBI. If that comes true, we're going after everyone. And they all deserve to go to prison for decades to come. These vicious people that persecuted Trump and persecuted Roger Stone, my friend, persecuted Steve Bannon, persecuted Peter Navarro, persecuted the J6ers, including my buddy Jake Lang, who's been rotting in a prison cell for 4 years, and 3 of the 4 years he's been in solitary without a trial. This is not America anymore. This is Nazi Germany meets the Soviet Union, and it's got to stop. And the only way we could stop it, guys, is if we go after. Don't persecute, prosecute. They persecuted. We have to prosecute and put these blue state savages in prison for years or decades to come. And I hope they're all on notice about what's going to happen. They got to be so scared. They're all shaking in their boots because they know Trump now has never going to face re-election again. He can do whatever needs to be done in this one term. And I predict it'll all get done in the next 2 years. He's not a lame duck. He's the opposite of a lame duck. He said, I don't give a fuck. He's going to do everything that we ever dreamt of. He's going to deport them all and build a wall. And he's going to put a lot of Democrat rats in prison for years to come. So I love it. I think it's great. As Steve said, in the whole country, the only one who understood that Trump was on his way to a landslide in the media. I'm sure many of you at home knew it, but the only one willing to say it in the media and put his nuts on the chopping block was Wayne Allyn Root and say landslide, electoral landslide, all 7 swing states, and a popular vote victory for President Trump. Said it on TV, said it on radio, said it in writing in my columns, and said it to President Trump himself. When I saw him 2 Thursdays ago, I was backstage with him, and he said, how am I going to do? You're the odds maker, Wayne, the Vegas odds maker. And I said, here's the deal. You're going to win by 12, landslide, but they cheat 10. So it'll look like you won by 2, but you win every swing state, electoral landslide. And he loved that. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, I think he's ahead by 2 or 3 points right now. I think it's 2. I may have hit it right on the head, but it's either 2 or 3, and I put that in writing. So I'm very proud. I knew all the polls were complete bullspit, lies, fraud, propaganda. Pollsters were bribed, or they were just on the wrong side and oversampling Democrats to show their bias and to try and pump up and get Kamala voters excited and to demoralize conservative voters. Trump was never losing in any of the swing states, and he was never losing in America. Anyone who said otherwise is a liar and should never be trusted again. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And the last thing I'll leave you with is Trump wants to deport 20 million new illegal aliens. And I'm guessing there's 20 million already here. So that's 40 million. It's going to take forever to round them up, to find them. How many ICE agents would you need to deport 20 to 40 million people? So I say, let's do it. Let's start. Let's go after them. Let's start with the bad guys. But on your first day in office, President Trump, announce no more welfare of any kind for illegal aliens, for foreign invaders. If you came into this country illegally, no welfare, no food stamps, no housing allowance, no aid to dependent children, no free health care, no Obamacare, no Medicaid, no free Obama phones, no nothing, no free legal aid, no $10,000 Visa cards. Everything is off the table. Welfare of all kinds, government entitlements of all kinds are banned to illegal aliens, and they will all self-deport. They will leave. You will save the money and the trouble and the time of trying to deport 20 to 40 million, because at least half or 2/3 will leave when they hear no more welfare. They can't live without welfare. They can't live without food stamps. They can't live without free healthcare. They're all going to leave. And on the way out, adios, arrivederci. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. That would be my message to all of them.
Wayne, you're on the radio, you're on Real America Voice, you're on Lindell TV, and maybe 16 other things. How do you do it?
I'm like Trump. I was born with parents that taught me to work hard, that all of life comes down to working hard. My grandfather was a workaholic, came to America with nothing from Germany and built an amazing business, the most successful butcher store in Bronxville, New York. And he worked 18 hours a day his entire life till the day he died. And that's what I do, Steve. I just work and work and work. And that's what Trump does. He worked so hard, he earned the presidency. Kamala is lazy. I said this from day one. DLI, dumb, lazy, and incompetent. She didn't want it. She didn't work hard because she's never worked hard for anything in her life. She slept her way to the top, and she got all her jobs from either sleeping with someone or because she's black and a woman or Indian and a woman. Never in her life did she actually work her butt off to get a job. So she has no idea how to work hard to win the presidency. And Trump destroyed her. He out-hustled her. He outworked her. He out-everythinged her. And she never even knew what hit her. It was like a missile coming at her. The Trump train ran her over. Best joke of the entire election season. Kamala got destroyed so bad by Trump that FEMA had to give her a $750 check. He just ran her over with the Trump train because she's never worked or earned anything in her entire life. And Trump showed her how to do it. Trump and I work hard. And like Trump, we have so much in common. I'm from New York. And I know the streets of New York, and I've never drank, never smoked, never done a drug. Just like Trump, I just work. And I got a really beautiful wife. So we have a lot in common. Every time he sees me announce to the crowd, Wayne Root has such a beautiful wife. We have a lot in common. So I love the man. He's the greatest. I appreciate him. And we won. Viva Las Vegas and Viva America. We saved America. God bless America. What a great 4 years are coming up. And what a great Christmas this is going to be. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you very much. Pleasure having you. Linda Sinkowitz still on there?
Can't hear Steve anymore. I've lost him. I lost you, Steve. So arrivederci. Bye-bye.
I got it. Raj? There you go. Linda, my favorite person.
Me.
Go ahead.
Well, first, I want to just thank you and Raj for putting on these programs tirelessly for, I don't know, how many months, years have you been doing this?
2 years.
Yeah, you got thousands and thousands of people that got involved with this. I know with what our organization has been able to do, which is fightvoterfraud.org, we actually gave out to thousands of people across the country, the double registered, double voters. Right now, we're still giving it out. Once we get the new data in, we will still also be giving that out. We've been helping a number of people and organizations that have questions about people that have already voted. So we've asked them to give us data that they have on their counties, and we can look into our system and see if they have voted elsewhere or if they're already double registered, double voted. Like I said, we're still working in multiple states with this. Hopefully after the first of the year, we'll get enough funding so that we can then let people know, all the dead people that are on your voter rolls. And yes, we know a lot of them do vote. Like I've said before with Florida, they have the Lazarus effect down there. Those people die and they come back and they vote. So we have a long way to go in cleaning the voter rolls, but Raj and Steve have had on today some of the most incredible people, with everybody doing their own very specific analysis of voter rolls and everything they're doing. I got to tell you, Wayne Root just put a big smile to my face. I mean, we should all be, again, very happy that Trump won, even though my organization is nonpartisan. I am now speaking as a individual. Very happy because now we can do something about the voter rolls. We all know that there's problems. Jerome Corsi has an incredible amount of data that he's been putting out there. And Fani, the same thing with you. I mean, so everybody, and Marley, who was on earlier, she's incredible as well. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Go to our website, fightvoterfraud.org, download, fill out for the free data that we'll give you, and we will keep you updated when we have new data coming in. But even right now, if you ask for data, you can double check ones who have already voted, see if they were on our naughty list, and maybe you can do something from there. But thank you so much, everybody, and it's fightvoterfraud.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Garland Favorito, you want to get him on?
Yep, stand by. Stand by.
Then actually go mention it to Brett.
Thanks to everyone for the amazing night last night in Georgia. It was quite. First of all, congratulations to Donald Trump. You did an incredible campaign. But I think what most of the folks may not know is how much eyes on the ground there were in these battleground states. This was a culmination of 4 years of our work for election integrity. We've been trying to, really save Georgia, and we've got a lot of people to thank for that. Now, the America Project played a great role, and all of our volunteers, thousands of volunteers. across the state. We had eyes on everywhere, and just like they did in other battleground states like Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin and Arizona. So I guess what I could say is this is the last 4 years we have been working on legislative improvements and changes to make sure that this election would be legitimate. We didn't achieve everything. We still have to unplug the voting system in Georgia, but we put a lot of detection mechanisms in place legally and through state election board rules. So those all, I think, made a big difference in the difference between 2020 and 2024. And then, of course, the other great thing is that the Republicans were awake. This time they were asleep in 2020, asleep at the wheel. But this time they were everywhere. Great, all kinds of election protection activities going on nationally. And I think that made a huge difference.
Yeah, I think starting out with the legislature passing some really strong election security and transparency laws, it really started 24 off to be a major win for us. And we would love to have gotten rid of the electronic voting machine, but that wasn't going to happen. So the next best thing is to make sure you have security and transparency laws around the machines. And we had great Republican leadership in both the House and the Senate here that helped us do that. They fought really hard for it. We really appreciate the Senate Ethics Committee, which oversees election laws, and the House, what's the subcommittee?
We had a House Government Affairs subcommittee
And
specifically dedicated to elections.
So we just really appreciate that they worked so hard for us, and they have already said we're not done. So we know we'll have their support when we go back to the legislature in January. But I think having that success, plus the state election board rules and regulations that you just mentioned, Garland, made a difference. And the literally thousands of people that were out in the precincts, polling locations, every county election office last night that was processing had observers. There were more eyes watching that have ever watched before. So I think anything nefarious, they just had to let it go.
Yeah, and we're really excited about this new state election board. For the first time, we have a majority of the members who are actually fully committed to election integrity. They're being attacked unmercifully by the press and some of the Democrats, but they have stood strong and withstood just horrendous attacks to do what is right. So we're hats off to them as well. But in particular, our volunteers. We've had so many people at Voter GA who come up and said, hey, I've got this skill or that skill. How can I help? Some people have been able to donate. Some people have donated their time and their skills versus money. And some have donated both. But they have all made an incredible difference in basically turning this thing around from what happened in 2020 and what happened in 2024.
I think also what could almost bring me to tears is the determination of these people, because the state election board members you just mentioned, and as well, there are a number of conservative, election integrity minded county election board members who are serving, and they have been under intense scrutiny. The attacks have been relentless. The lawsuits have been relentless, and they just keep on fighting. It's like the more the attacks come, the harder they fight. And boundless energy. I know people that were working in the election offices until really late last night, and they were back there early this morning as the processes continued. So we're all digging in and we're ready to make sure this is going to be done right going forward. And such a gift that we were given last night that Donald Trump is going to once again be in the Oval Office.
Yeah, and President Trump ran a great campaign. He reached out to Latinos, to Blacks, to unions, everyone he got on board. Even traded off Dick and Lynn Cheney for RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. That's the deal of the century. Probably the best deal of all amazing deals that he's ever made. But hats off to him. But we got to just say also hats off to all of our fellow election integrity advocates around the country. I know a lot of you will be watching this video, and there's so many of it, and I hesitate to even start naming names, but we've got to just say thank you to Patrick Colbeck up in Michigan, Peter Bernegger in Wisconsin, and Heather Honey, and Tony Sheep and Karen Taylor in Pennsylvania, and Shelby Bush and all the folks out there in Arizona, and I could go on and on about all the people. I apologize if I left probably 1,000 names off that list right there. But we want to thank all of them for what y'all have done in your states to protect our elections. And also a big thank you to the America Project, who's been really, really helpful in sustaining us so that we could be effective.
And as well, Mike Lindell. He has been wonderful to help promote Voter GA. He talks about Garland and Voter GA, I think, all the time. And we just appreciate what he's been willing to sacrifice for this movement.
Amen. Probably no one has sacrificed more than he has. And also we got to thank Brandon House at Worldview too. We've been up here doing election coverage for him this in the last 2 elections actually. And he's another incredible patriot. And I've probably forgotten 10 times more than I've named, but just a few folks that have been so grateful, and helpful to the movement. Patrick Byrne, of course, through the America Project, General Flynn, and all of his incredible family. We just want to say thank you.
And we also have to remember Tina Peters, who today is sitting in jail because she was willing to stand up and say things are not being done right. And she is paying a very, very heavy price. So I would ask everybody to continue to pray for her. I would love to see her released from prison.
Amen. And we certainly are going to be praying for that. Is because of her, we found out all the Dominion problems. And so we're truly grateful to her. And we have not forgotten that she's in jail, and we will do everything we can to get her out.
So Jovan, can you hear us? Okay, Jovan. Okay, are you able to come on now for about 10 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. So I want to thank everybody. Jovan's going to be our last speaker. Everybody wanted to hear him again. We'll give him as much time as he needs. Want to let everybody know our next meeting will be on the 25th Monday because Thanksgiving's coming up. We got some top people have said they come on. My email out. I want if anybody would like to email me and let us know if you have speakers, please. stern1054@gmail.com. I want to thank everybody who is streaming this. We're seeing over 2 million people on this. Jovan, I know you got tons of people on it. We got radio, TV. It's everywhere. 100,000 are on the War Room. We want to thank Steve and Maureen. I want to thank my staff. We got a whole staff here that when you put this together, it's just not the easiest thing in the world, to get everything. Jovan taught me a lot. We did 2 Flag Day events. I want to thank him so much for doing that because the first one, he gave up all his time to do 2 weeks of work round the clock. And we had 9 hours on TV, which is amazing. And I love him. Go ahead, Jovan. Take it away.
Thank you, sir. There's a lot of people in this movement, and everybody's great patriots and everything else working hard to fix this. Where I was, we won a battle. We did not win the war. And we are at war, folks. We have a year. And you can mark that down. And the reason we have a year is because if we're going to get things fixed, we've got exactly 1 year to do it and get it fixed before the campaigning season for the midterm occurs. And you learn that with a lot of people trying to get stuff removed from the rolls and doing it within the 90-day period. I catch a lot of flack for talking candidly and directly. And one of the first things I want to do for everybody, I have no requirement that anybody loves me, likes me, heralds me, or whatever. And the reason is because this is an ugly war, an ugly business. And even in our own ranks, truth is not wanted and not rewarded. Every one of us are different people now. There's not a person on this call that is not a totally different person than when we started in 2020, really looking at this. And I said back then, it's one of the greatest gifts we've ever been given. However, what I was covering in my slide presentation was we're different now, therefore we must act differently now. And here's what I mean. Many great things happened and came about. People woke up and are now more civic-minded and voting-minded than they ever have been. And we got the gift of pulling back the veil on everything. Many things that we never thought could be true, like all our elected officials were after us and they'd be willing to kill us to get their way. But now we know it's true. But we're 4 years down the road and we must become something different if we're going to win. What got us here 4 years ago with everybody talking, everybody sharing, and everybody shining a light on it actually got people off their butts to vote. It's exactly what President Trump asked me. We're sitting there at his desk going through everything. And he asked me, with all these things broken, how in the hell did I get elected in 2016? And I said, sir, because people got off their butts. That's what's happened, folks. People got off their butts. People left the other side. People realized we were being conned. That was an effort of people talking and the left exposing itself. I'm sorry. I do not attribute the win to things we necessarily did in election integrity, because there were no changes in election integrity that happened. Yes, we knew things, but they used the same exact playbook. Arizona, other states are the example. 2020, they used in 2020, they used it in 2022, they used it again. Folks, we didn't move the needle. Don't kill the messenger. Just listen to what I'm saying, please. We got a little bit of a reprieve. That's where we are. We got a little bit of a reprieve. If you think, and you should be kind of concerned about how quiet it's been. I think we all expected riots and civil war and stuff. To me, something's coming, and we're not out of the darkness yet. If I could wave a magic wand based on what we learned, and you can go back to the first part of my presentation, I won't repeat that. I think now is the time for us to take the number one lesson that the Democrat national machine they have, the committee, taught us. And that means we've got to figure out how to work together. Period. Sitting here where we're still repeating words 4 years later that cost us legal cases, or we're still trying to explain what happened and we can't even use the correct terminology for what it is, which costs us in legal cases. I realize we've got to organize. We've got to become as proficient at election veracity as the machine that wants to kill our incredible constitutional republic wants to kill it and make it just a generic democracy. I'm telling you, we are not going to be able to do that if we keep playing favorites. If we will cut our nose off to spite our faces just because we don't like somebody, or if we don't inspect what we expect. Every play has been run. They've run the play and they're running it over and over. And just like I showed you at the beginning, they shifted from Maricopa to Pima. If you think about all the people on this call and the things that were shared, I want you to recognize the vast talents we have at our disposal. But there's too many islands. There's too many chiefs. There's too many teams and pockets and groups and subgroups. And by the way, in election integrity, if that crap worked, it would have worked 4 years ago. We're not organized right. No matter how much it is, we are not organized right because we're not focusing on what stops these things. We've got exposing it down, hands down, folks. We've got exposing it. People know mail-in balloting, all this other stuff. What we're not focused on is how to permanently stop it. When I look across this landscape, 80% of the things that we battle can be fixed in the contract stage, not the law stage, the contract stage. You'll hear other people, yes, we're introducing laws and we're going to introduce bills and we're going to do. If we have to go that far to fix this, or we have to sue to fix it, you will understand it's always after the fact. We've got to get ahead of the fact. And to get ahead of the fact, we have to understand operationally how these things occur. And I'll give you a good example. Every state right now could demand of their ballot printers, the people that print the ballots, they could demand, we must know how many you print when you print them. We must know how many you mailed, because some of them are combined together. How many you didn't use, where are the ones you didn't use, what was the paper you used, and what machines did you use them to do it with? Now, if we just take that one thing, you got to understand, let's just deal with ballots. Between the post office, in and out, between the monies that is exchanged for that postage, in and out, between the printers and mailers of the ballots, in and out, between the paper stock, in and out, between our voter rolls and what came back, we have a complete edit cycle, which means if we just get the information, we have the easiest layup audit of all that does not take any oversight, does not take anybody special with special skills. But the deal is, we don't have it in our contracts. We're not thinking in our contracts, and we let people give us boilerplate contracts. I think the ballot is a contract for finances. You just got bound in this last administration for another $60,000 in your lifetime and your children. It binds us. We better treat it like a bank account, and you better not be a penny over. And so what I'm asking everybody to consider, we got to get really picky about what works, what doesn't work, what's real, what moves the needle. Even though there's some of us that can't even sit at the same table, calling it like it is, we've got to figure out how to sit at the same table. We've got to figure out how to have the same words, the same lexicon, the same dictionary. And we've got to take all these superstars we have, people that are doing really great at freedom of information request, which so many people don't know how to do, people that are really great maybe at drafting a lawsuit or whatever. We've got to push these disciplines down into one very good oiled machine. The reason I showed those groups is we possess all of this. We just don't possess the will and the willpower to everybody get on the same team. Sure, we have calls. That's great. It's nice to have calls and see faces behind it. Gives you a chance to see some people out here, and maybe you can dispel some of the myths. But regardless, we're on the same team. This team needs to come together. This team needs to get serious about winning. We need to move as one organization. We need to talk as one organization, not half a dozen 501c3s and 20, 30, 40, 50 initiatives. And I'm saying it is with that hyper focus and truly dividing up our skill sets and coming together well-oiled like the DNC, we will be able to win this. We are not going to be able to win this no matter what we're up against if we continue operating like we're operating. Why? Look at who just went in as speaker. The whole system wants it their way. We are the people that know how to fix it. But you don't fix it just through legislation or only waiting for legislation. That's playing by their rules when a lot of this could be fixed by contracts. And by the way, what's the worst case when your state sends a contract amendment out to your ballot printer or your legislators block it? Well, you're exposing them for what they are. I suggest everybody figures out how to really come to the table with expertise and find your role. You might be that influencer and public communicator, and that's a great thing, and it's needed. You're the new media that replaces the media machine that the DNC had. We got to have our own media machine. You might be that great tech person. You might be that great freedom of information request, but everybody can't be everything. But we do have every piece. We do have great skills and expertise. We've got to find a way to make peace and come together, or we're just not going to have a country to fight for. That's all I'm asking people to consider. The myths, the crap, it's got to stop. All that is too petty for our great nation to have our little cliques and our little fiefdoms. We got one thing to worry about, and that's keeping the United States of America. We got the breather, we got Trump in. But I say we're only going to be as good as him. He's only going to be as good as us. We got 1 year, and we have to pay attention to that, not squander it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jovan. You're the king of election security, or whatever you want to call it. Like, and we appreciate that. And everybody in the chat is chatting about you, along with people from all over the world, actually. We got chats going on every place. I'm not sure if it got on yours, but we want everybody to bring this information out and bring it to us. I know Terry Raposa's on here. He gives me information all the time. Dan Schultz, Precinct Strategy, Sam Anthony, Your News, Norm from TotalNews.com. These are all people that are helping us, and they do a wonderful job. Many of these people do it for free. And, you know, we got Paul Bodine on, who helped me out in Nevada. And, you know, we try to bring people out and give their names out because they don't get on TV all the time. And I'm lucky and you're lucky to get on shows and stuff. So let's bring them all on. Our next one is Monday, the 25th. If you don't come on, have a great Thanksgiving. Raj, you there? You want to round us up? By the way, thank you for everybody who bought shirts. You know, I don't basically own the company anymore. I gave it to my son because I'm an old man. And even though I kept a little bit so it doesn't throw me out of here.
An old man who works everybody to shame. Everybody should work like you at 80 plus.
So we got to buy www.theflagshirt.com, light it up. You know, that helps my son. So, you know, I got to keep him in good shape. Even though he doesn't work like me as far as politics, he works more for, you know, selling and getting it done. So we thank everybody for coming on. This is an unbelievable call. The people that have come on, from Bannon to Jovan to everybody to come on, and Raj and I work very hard. Raj does a phenomenal job getting me people, puts this on. It takes a lot of people to do this. I mean, everybody thinks it's easy. You know, just regulating the time when everybody comes on is a nightmare, because just like General Flynn couldn't come on at the right time. I don't get to see everything. I have to listen to this again because I got 2 phones going on with people texting me. A lot of people have texted me. They want to see this. They want to get on for tomorrow's program. You know, you send out 100,000 emails and 50,000 texts, and people want to come on tomorrow. But you could see it on Stern American Rumble, the copy. Raj, you got it on yours. We have it all over the place. We're getting numbers in. Over 1.7 million so far are on it that we can see. We got a lot of people still reporting. So we could be up at the 2.3 million. And our next one, we want to have 3 million. The more people see it, the more people get involved, the more people we can get involved. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate it. Raj, go ahead.
what are some of the countries that at least that we know of where people are watching this from?
Australia, the Philippines, Canada, London, Italy, Spain, New Zealand. That's so far reported in. I have to wait for some of the people to tell me. I know that at one of our meetings, we had Russia listening, Israel, Taiwan. I mean, people have streams that go everywhere. And we don't realize that the United States is affected by many countries. And, you know, as soon as President Trump came in, we all saw what happened. All these countries changed their tune. And, you know, all of a sudden, this is going to be a different world. But the problem is 4 years from now, you know, every 4 years it changes, every 2 years. So what I said was I waited an hour after President Trump won, and then I got to call Steve Bannon, and I told him, hey, look, we got to get the people to work because the Democrats lost. They're going to spend every penny they can to wipe us off the face of the earth. And we've got to get candidates to run. You know, I had a guy here, General Chris Eddy, a wonderful guy. He ran against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, but in Broward County, it's Democrat. I've never saw a guy run a better campaign. He started 2 years ago. He got money from everybody, but this is a Democratic area. So we have to find the Republican areas. We can never let a Democrat win in a Republican area. Remember that. That is, if you look at Real Clear Politics, you can see who won every race and what the percentages were. And we need to look at that because, you know, California, if you take a look at California, it's all blue. And it's about 6 people that won Republican seats, Newport Beach and a couple other areas. But we had some fantastic candidates because I interviewed a lot of them. And they just, you know, the Democrats are nuts out there. So we've got to get great candidates. We got to help them because, you know, when I interviewed them, I see what they got to do. If you think I work hard, some of these candidates, they're unbelievable. They work 7 days a week. I got to take half a day off on Sunday, but that's it. I'm going to turn it off to you, Raj. I spoke too much today.
Well, Steve, thank you for making this happen. All those countries that you just heard of, all the podcasts, so that is Steve Stern and his team working very hard. So again, the takeaway here there's so many takeaways, but you heard it from Javon. We have got to take advantage of this tiny window that we've been given and ramp it up. So everyone's heard that. I want to again remind you how you can get the access to the recording. And the recording is available at, in fact, you know, I don't know if you guys can hear me. I just took my microphone off. There we go. The recording is going to be available at sternamerican.com, sternamerican.com. When you go to sternamerican.com, what you do is you click on the Rumble channel. When we click on the Rumble channel, look for the live links. That's where all these shows are posted, the live links. Kathy, thank you to you and the rest of the Defend volunteers. Kathy's putting all the organizations that were here today. And I think we might be able to get that in the description, Anthony, of your show. If you want to put it there, that way people have it. If you want to save the chat, please save the chat. You click the 3 dots above the chat, click it, and you can save it. If you're on a Windows computer, it'll take it to your saved in your Zoom folder and your documents. Again, I'm putting up here the flag shirt. Christmas is coming up. Please make your purchase there. If you're watching us on the live stream, you're probably not, if you're getting it from our podcasters, you may not be on our mailing list. If you want to get on our mailing list, text the word elections to 91776. So please make sure you do that. Here again is Stern American. Just scroll to the bottom, click on the Rumble channel, and then click on the live links. And that is how you can get to recordings. Live links right here. Also, American States Forum, as the government starts downsizing, you have to get your state leadership, your governors, your speakers of the House, your Senate president. You've got to get them to take up the slack, assume the constitutional authority. If that's of interest to you, check out statesrights.us, statesrights.us. We're going to close this show.
What defines the American spirit? Preserving life, liberty, and pursuing happiness. Caring for the nation we call home and its people. As patriots, it's our duty to drive the entrepreneurial spirit, pushing hard, reaching for success, sharing patriotism, because the American way of life is for all to live. The flag shirt, where freedom reigns.
And there you have it, my friends. Have a great evening, and we will see you on the next show. Bye for now.
The recording has stopped.